All right, ready?
Yep.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the 24 Down Podcast, episode 11. I am here with Carl Wolf, aka Wolfy. Wolfy, how you doing, brother?
Yeah. Good, man. Doing well. Living life.
I'm pretty excited for this episode. You and I were talking off air about how we haven't seen each other, probably really even really talked to each other, other than the past few weeks leading up to
hmm
this, in quite some years. I mean, we're
Yeah,
talking
man.
at least a decade, probably. So I know when you go through and you fill us in on everything that's happened in your life post 24 down, it's all going to be new to me. But I'm also looking forward to all your stories and memories because I know you've got some good ones. So
Yeah.
we'll dive right into it and let you take over and just kind of give us as long of an overview of your post 24 down, post Valley Forge life leading up to where you are today.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, honestly, thinking about it and like having listened to this, I think just to kind of go back to this, like Majetski name dropped me and like four people, like I got just texts and messages like Rizzo, D-Shat, I forget, a couple other guys like were just like, yo, man, have you done this? Have you heard of this? And I was like, no, not really. Like I'll have to check it out. And then yeah, I mean, I think I listened to all of them that have been out there in like the first couple weeks. And like I think Francis talked about it on his too. Like you guys have done reunions, you've done the Zoom calls, and I just kind of I'm really good at like putting things in compartments, and so I think I just kind of took the whole college experience and was like, cool, well that stage of my life is past, and like now I'm moving in the future, and so like none of that stuff like I feel bad because I feel like I've been missing out for the last 10 years on some of that stuff. I don't know, like, hey, life happens, like, don't feel too bad. But, like, I know, like, now, like, if we ever did a reunion, like, 100% I'd be there because this is just, like, reignited, kind of that. And I've reached out to a bunch of the guys that have done the podcast as well and kind of messaged with them. So, this thing's awesome, man. So we'll just kind of start with that. And I'm excited to be on it. Um, but yeah, let me give you kind of updates of where I've been since Valley Forge because it's been a roller coaster, probably just like 99% of us have said on these podcasts so far. Um, yeah, so basically, kind of like going back to like right before I graduated. So I graduated '09 and probably my senior year, and I've had this conversation a lot too. Basically realized like full-time ministry just wasn't going to vibe with me. Not that I have a problem with it, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it just wasn't something I think that my personality and my experience like that it was going to work out. And I recognized that and I knew that. And I still do ministry, just not full-time like that. So I graduated, I went home, um, lived with my parents for about a year, and I grew up really close to Messiah College. And I had a couple good friends that went to Messiah College. So they were still in the area. I got connected with them. Ton of people back here think I went to Messiah College just because I hung out with all these other kids that did. And I'm like, no, I went to somewhere like smaller and shittier, but like it's cool. So yeah, I got connected with them and I ended up getting connected to this place in Harrisburg called the Sycamore House. And it was actually, um, I don't really know how to describe it. When I've tried to describe it to people, they're like, oh, that sounds like a halfway house. But it was basically, I lived at this house for free. It was connected to an Episcopalian church. And they were like, well, hey, would you like to live here and run our youth group for 9 months of the year? Like, we don't do anything over the summer, but the rest of the year, like, we'd have you run it. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That was in downtown Harrisburg, and it was Episcopalian. So we pretty much just, like, hung out and, like, acted like idiots, kind of like I did in college, just for the next couple years. But it was a really good time. I mean, it was my first time out of school, out of my house, like, on my own. Um, and yeah, it was a small youth group. It was like 12 kids, maybe, if I got lucky. And it was 6th to 12th grade. So it was a very weird dynamic. But I did that. You typically only would do that for about a year. And so did that for a year. After that, moved out, lived with a couple buddies that I had from the house. At that time, I worked at Blockbuster. Uh, which is long gone. And like anytime it comes up in conversation, people are like, "Oh man, I miss Blockbuster. Like, don't you miss working there?" And I'm like, sometimes for the free movies, yeah. But yeah, so I rode that thing to the end. I think I shut down like 10 stores in our area that closed. They just kept putting me in another one and just kept closing. But when that finished out, I was like, all right, I got to find like a career. So I actually got into banking, and I started as a teller at this like regional bank, and that was 2011, like end of 2011. And then in 2012, I got married. So I married Meg. She is my wife. We dated in high school. Actually, we dated in high school, broke up, um, got dated each other's best friends even because we're your youth group kids, and then got back together. And when I was at Valley Forge, she went to Millersville, and we started dating again. So we got married in 2012. Baldwin was there. I know James was there. D-Shat Chocolate and Tom were all in our wedding. I'm trying to think who else was there from 24 down. Oh, and Carrie and Raven were there. So it was good. I mean, anytime you get married, it's one of the best days of your life. So, um, yeah, got married, bought our first house. A couple months later, got our dog, Buster. Um, and then, yeah, just kind of lived life for a few years. And then this is where it got really bumpy. So in 2017, I woke up one day and my mom was calling me and she was like, "Your dad's having a seizure." And I was just there like the day before. He looked a little like tired because it was like middle of the summer, hot, and he had a seizure. So they rushed him to the hospital in the ambulance. Went along. My sister was in LA, called her. Like, I was like, "Hey, I think this is pretty serious. I think you should fly home." She ended up flying home. My brother-in-law, at the time, just her boyfriend, like flew home too. And yeah, so a couple months he recovered, and then for a few months he was just out of it mentally. Like, he would have a conversation with my dad, and it would be like one of 6 conversations he had in his pocket or something like that. And then that fall, my sister was getting married, and about a week before her wedding, he was like, "Man, like, my head hurts." So they took him in and they found brain cancer, and that was just like fucking devastating. Yeah, yeah, just cancer is like the worst thing you can ever wish on somebody. And so he stuck it out. They like jacked him up on steroids so he could make it to the wedding for my sister. And then right after that, he had surgery. So he had glioblastoma, which is the same cancer that John McCain had, Joe Biden's son had. It's basically stage 4 and it's not curable. So he fought it really hard. My dad was a fighter, and we had him for about 11 months. And then literally August 31st, 2007, 2018, no, 17. See, I can't even get time right anymore. But yeah, I'm sorry, 2016 he had a seizure. 2017 was when he passed away. And that was a really, really difficult year. Emotionally, um, having to watch him go through that. I mean, that put us through a lot. I know in college I would say pretty cynical. Even out of college was a little bit cynical. I had people kind of in my life after school that helped me through that and helped me try to be more positive. But especially going through that with my dad, um, really like changed me to think like, what's the point in being miserable? And so since then, I've tried to focus on being more healthy, more positive, having the right outlook on life. But um, yeah, so that was really hard. That was a crazy year with all of that. And my mom and dad are in the area. They live like 15 minutes from us. My mom's still there, so it was nice to be close to home, to be there for him and still be there for my mom. But yeah, so that was a crazy year. So my wife and I were like, all right, 2018, let's take it easy. Like, we're just gonna relax this year, maybe do some house stuff, go on a vacation. And then I just got my wife pregnant. And let me just brag on the first try. And it wasn't even really a try. It wasn't an accident, but it was just kind of like, well, let's try not stopping it from happening. And then, bam, she got pregnant. So, but yeah, so that was February, I think, of 2018. We found out that summer. Then we decided to buy a new house. So we sold our old house, bought a new one, and in the like same time frame, all that was happening, my boss actually left our bank, and they were like, well, hey, would you like to be the manager of this branch or this office? And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take a promotion. Like, been very career focused. And yeah, so supposed to be a calm year, bought a house, got a promotion, and then in November that year is when we had Abigail, our daughter, and um, you should have kids. I'll say it right now on this podcast. Everybody should have a kid. Even D-Shat, who's not married, should have a kid because they are 100% the greatest thing that will ever happen to your life. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so she'll be 2 years old in November, and she is just a ball of fun. She looks like me. She looks like my wife. She's like the perfect mix and is just hilarious. And so, yeah, she keeps us busy, and that's pretty much what I've been doing the last 2 years is taking care of her. So, um, yeah, that's about sums it up. Otherwise for me, kind of just mentioned I slacked off. I don't know why, how this makes any sense. I was so lazy and did not do any schoolwork at like Valley Forge. I mean, I did it, but I didn't really do it. And for some reason, I got into banking and it just took off. And I got promoted then. They actually gave me another office to manage too. So I now manage two offices for our region. And actually, both of my offices are like the top performing branches in our region, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's weird. It's kind of funny and people are like, how'd you end up in banking? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like got out of school and kind of fell into it and realized I really enjoy it. So that's about it.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, so like, I want to say a few things, and I don't mean this in an offensive way at all. And
It's fine.
I'll show you why I don't mean it in an offensive way because I'm going to include myself in this list. But there's a list of people just in my head that if you would have asked me, all right, in college, who's like least likely to have a kid, or who can like least likely see have a kid? And again, I'm putting myself on this list too,
Or
so that's
maybe
why.
like intentionally have a kid is
Right.
the way to say it.
Yes. Yes. And so like I don't mean like I am sure
No, I
like
get it.
I'm sure you are an unbelievable awesome dad. Like I don't doubt that for a second knowing your personality, but just like thinking back to like how we were in college. There's a few people like myself, you, Majeski.
Yeah.
There's a few people where I'm just like, I don't think I could ever see them having a kid, but like it's
You guys
awesome
have
though.
no responsibility in college. They are so irresponsible and stupid.
No, that's
That's
good,
what
man.
makes us great dads, man, because we're like, oh yeah, like we know what it's like to just be little and stupid and
Right.
irresponsible, and like it's hilarious and it's awesome. Yeah.
No, that's really good, man. Like I can tell like how much she means to you, and like I said, didn't mean it in an offensive way because I could definitely at the same time tell that you are a great dad. Another thing that I kind of wanted to bring up too was, and this is like credit to you and credit to Junior and Mike, and realistically credit to the whole 24 Down family.
Mm-hmm.
But when we found out, was it last week or 2 weeks ago that Nate's dad passed away?
Yeah.
And a lot of people reached out, and I actually saw the video that Andrew put together, and I'm not
Mm.
gonna lie, like I shed some tears watching this video, but
I would have
the
cried if I saw that. Yeah.
the ones that like really like stuck out to me was you and Junior. Mike didn't get a chance to get his in time. He sent Andrew one separately, and I can see
Mm-hmm.
that. But the
Yeah.
fact that you guys were reaching down from personal experience and sympathizing with him, and
Yeah.
like it's just such a testament to the way that our 24 Down family is. Um, and I can't give you and Junior and Mike and all those guys enough enough like credit for being able to, uh, because I'm sure you're the same way. There's not a day that goes by where you don't think about your dad,
Yeah.
um, I'm
Ah,
sure
man,
it's
I was a junior. I have his same name,
right,
so like it's like
right,
you see it every day. Yeah.
right. So like it's not like it's something that isn't affect you anymore. Like it still affects you, but
Right.
you were able to like put that emotion aside to love and nurture one of your brothers in a way, and like man, like that really, I don't know what it was, but that like you and Junior's portion of the video for sure. Like, and I didn't know that your dad passed away until like this whole thing
Yeah.
with Nate say was going on, man. Like, um, my dad's still alive now. Like my family, they all moved to Nashville a few years ago, so like I don't even
Okay.
see them that often. But even still,
Right.
man, like I can't. I know it's going to happen at some point, and I can't even mentally
Yeah.
grasp that. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's something until you have to go through it. Um, and I know Junior and and Mike have our experiences were a little different too because they very suddenly lost their dad. And like neither one's like both are awful. Like
sure.
neither one's worse than the other. Um, but also like watching him just deteriorate every year. But anybody losing a parent, especially at our age, like um, I mean, when Abby was born, like I mean, I would just break down and cry, thinking like, God, I wish my dad was here to like
Yeah.
hold her and see her and but yeah, I mean, it's something until you really go through it. Not that you can't sympathize, that you can't empathize, but like it's just something that you just don't know it until you've lived through it and the ache of that losing a parent. And as guys like losing our dads, like that's seeing my dad, as a kid, and you're like, oh, my dad will beat your dad up, like, but like he was healthy, he was a distance runner, and like this thing just came out of nowhere, like, and they're like, we don't know why he got it, like some old white guys just do. He was only 60, like I think he was 60 when he got it, but yeah. So Nate, if you're listening to this, man, like again, I feel for you, brother, and I'm here for you if you need to talk.
Yeah. No, I like I said, man, I can't say enough about the 24 down family in general, but for you guys to pull that experience and be able to tie that in, and like I know it, again, like you said, it's so hard to until you've experienced it, like
Mm-hmm.
really truly understand it. So like I can't even fathom, but like I want to say that if I was in that same situation, not that like everybody that said something would mean a lot to me, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like the ones that like went through the same thing, like there's just such a more of a like, okay,
Yeah.
like they went through it, and they're still going, they're still strong and whatnot. So
Yeah.
again, I wanted to bring that up. I thought that was important, and I really commend you guys for that. So
Thanks, man.
yeah. Well, with that, we will get right into the question segment, and like normal, some of these questions might lead into some of the stories you want to tell, and that's fine if you want to trail off on a story, and we'll get back to a question later.
Yeah.
But we'll just kind of go with it as it is. So
Yeah. That
um, I will
works.
I will start with probably the shortest question that I've got so far. So this one comes from Rizzo,
Oh.
and
Okay.
Rizzo wants to know if you've got any rock.
No, not on me. I'm sorry.
All right, so
Is
let's
that
see.
an inside joke? Maybe Rizzo. He
I,
should probably. He has Instagram me Rizzo because I feel like there could be an inside joke there that I'm not remembering.
there's like,
Which
I,
I feel like a lot of these questions might have to
I
in some of
like,
these stories. Yeah.
well, like you've like I'm sure you've heard on a few of these episodes that like there's so many stories that come up, and like it is how it is. People forget about things, but like
Yeah.
it only takes like the slightest little reminder, and like all of a sudden like just memories start like flooding
Yeah.
back and stuff like that. So yeah, Rizzo, reach out to Wolfie if that was an inside joke. It might just be
Or if
it
you
might
want
just
some
be
rock, just shoot me a message, man.
it also might just be Tom being a smartass, which is equally as
Yeah, that's fair.
possible. All right, so let's see. We got this next question. We got a series of questions from Junior. Um, his first question is, he says that you were beautiful then, you're beautiful now. How do you maintain such beauty?
I feel like now it's probably because I grew boobs. Uh, wasn't it D-Shat was talking about like he's still handsome or beautiful because he's single and all
Yeah,
us married guys got fat?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm beautiful now, but I appreciate that, man. Coming from Junior, and that's a handsome guy. So shout out to you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, Junior's second question, and this is good because this briefly got brought up on
Yeah,
another episode. It might have been D Shad's episode. I don't remember. But I
I
couldn't
forget
when
whose
it
it
got
was.
brought up.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the story exactly, and hopefully you'll have some more stuff to fill in. But he wants to know if you remember that time when 24 Down came rolling deep to McDonald's in Phoenixville, since we heard you gotten into a fight or altercation. He wants you to explain what happened.
Yeah, this is going to be disappointing. I literally so here's the weird thing. I remember it and I don't remember it. So I do remember this happening. I do remember. I think I was there maybe, but I don't know like how I was a part of it. But I know it was at McDonald's, and I like 100% guarantee like people loaded up and rolled deep into McDonald's. I'm calling out. I think either Baldwin or Majetsky were there with me. Um, but again, like I don't remember anything about it other than just like when somebody said that, I was like, shoot, like that definitely did happen. But
So here's what I remember, and again, like I can't remember people like Baldwin for sure seems. I think you might be right that, and it might have been Baldwin and Majeski. I want to say I want to say Gene might have been with you guys too, because I think if I remember, I think we got a text message from Gene, if I remember correctly, or maybe somebody texted
I
Gene
don't.
and then Gene
Yeah,
told us. However it was, all of a sudden like we heard, oh, like yeah, like
it's like
we heard it was you and whoever else like got. I think the story, because you know how like a telephone game goes, you
yeah.
know it changes every time. But by the time it like got to us, I think what we heard was like you guys all got jumped in the McDonald's parking lot or something like that. Which in reality, like maybe the reality of it was like you guys were just being assholes and like yelling at some people just as whatever. Who
I'm
knows?
pretty sure there was like people talking shit like to each other
For
at
sure.
somewhere in it, but
So all I remember is like we hear this and we're like all like, all right, we got to go. And no joke, like everybody runs out to the parking lot, and some people have their keys, some people don't have their keys. So like everybody that had their keys got in their own car, and then people who didn't have their keys got in somebody else's car. But we must have brought like a good at least 10 vehicles. Like,
yeah,
and I could like picture the whole ride there, just this line of cars, like going past the Wawa, like going down, I don't even remember the name of the street or whatever, and then like pulling in the, because
yeah. I
that
remember where the McDonald's was.
it was,
Yeah, it's
wasn't it
sat
in
over
that
by
same,
Kmart,
yeah, I
right?
was gonna say it was by
Yeah,
Kmart. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, we like all rolled in there. It's just like, I mean, at that point, if you're this other group of people, like, what is on your mind when you're having some
yeah,
sort of
that's weird.
altercation with a few guys, and now here comes 10, 15 cars rolling up like all at once. Like
Right.
unreal. So no, that was cool. I'm
I
sure
wish I remember. Yeah, somebody's got to know the story.
yeah, yeah, somebody's got a better memory than us. I hope anyway. All right, so Junior's third and final question. He said, what's one significant important thing about your time at Valley Forge 24 Down that still holds true today?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I kind of thought about this a lot before the podcast, even before Junior asked that question. So I'm glad he did ask it. Kind of like why, like what attracted me to 24 Down? Because like I probably didn't get super connected to 24 Down until maybe like later sophomore year, junior year, definitely by my junior year, and then didn't live on 24 Down until our senior year. Um, but I was like, what, like, because I've heard like the other stories of the guys that lived on 24 Down, why they stayed there, but like, why, what was it that pulled me towards 24 Down or made me say, like, I want to be a part of that group? And I was thinking about that, like, so my freshman year was very eye opening to me about, like, basically the fact that, like, Valley Forge has like a cookie cutter mold that they wanted you to fit into, and like if you were outside that mold, not that you couldn't succeed, but it was like significantly, I think, harder. And I saw that. I actually did student government my freshman year. I was the vice president of our freshman class. I didn't want to be president. I thought, yeah, that's too gaudy, but like vice president, assistant coach, like that's good. Um, and yeah, when I did student government, because that's like, the people were doing that to put it on their resumes and stuff. Like that's where I saw it very clear cut. Like, here's what Valley Forge wants, and if you're not going to fit within that, like you're going to be an outsider. And I feel like, and this maybe we'll talk about this later, but I feel like I looked like what Valley Forge wanted, but like my personality, my mentality, and everything was like obviously for everybody here that knows me, not what Valley Forge wanted or maybe needed. And I mean, my freshman year, Baldwin was like one of my best friends, Raquel Wilson, whole group of people that I really connected with. I think if I remember correctly, there was like 11 of us that were super close our freshman year, and 3 of us came back for our sophomore year. And my roommate, who I was probably the closest with, he actually got his girlfriend pregnant on campus. And so I was like, wow, okay, well then that's definitely like probably not within the cookie cutter mold of Valley Forge. So that really kind of opened me up to like, you know what, like I'm going to be here, but like I'm going to be real. I don't want to be fake. I don't want to like, I think truthfully nobody fits that mold, but just some people are really good at pretending to fit that mold. And I think Rick talked about that too. Like he personally kind of dealt with that after college. And I'm glad that he recognized that and that wasn't for him. But my eyes are really open to that. And so then we can talk about this then too, but there's like a couple like individuals that I significantly remember like that first stood out to me for 24 down. And then pretty much like I was like, this is a cool thing. Like this is a good thing. This is, yeah, 24 down where you're rowdy, yeah, where you're cocky, like whatever you want to call it, but like it's because we were real, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. And that probably stands out to me the most from my time at Valley Forge. Like I think it's funny that nobody has censored my name on these podcasts when like they bring up a story about me. They're like, oh yeah, remember Wolfy did that? Like it was so stupid and he did that. Like because I didn't care. Like I was like, it's it's who I am, it's what I did. Like and that's really stuck through me through life too. Even, at home, professionally, like I've never wanted to, like even at work, I mean banking like is, it's an old industry. You typically think of older gentlemen, white guys in suits, like, and I'm like, yeah, like I enjoy my job and I'm really good at it, but like I know I'm not going to fit like a cookie cutter mold all the time, but I can still be authentic and still be myself. And I do attribute that to like my time at Valley Forge and my time with 24 Down.
That's good. I mean, there's a few things there to unpack. Like first of all,
Yeah.
The name dropping thing. Like I am just as much a fault because I can very specifically remember at least once. I'm sure it's been more than once. Like I remember the episode with James when we were talking about things, and there was a few times where I was like, "Well, I'm not going to
I
mention
died
names."
laughing when you dropped it. I was like,
And
talking about Pastor Jacob. I was like, oh my God,
yeah,
that's
and so
hilarious.
I think for me the reason I was like, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to drop Wolfie's name is because
Yeah.
I knew the person you are. I knew you're not going to care, and not
Yeah.
to say that other people whose names I didn't drop wouldn't
Yeah.
care,
We didn't
would
drop
care.
him for good reasons. Yeah.
Right,
Like,
right. But so I do apologize. I know you
oh,
don't care.
yeah, I don't care.
um,
I was like, I got to get on there to defend myself. And I'm like, why do I have to defend myself? I didn't do anything wrong. My wife was like, oh, please don't incriminate yourself. And I was like, we didn't do anything illegal. We just broke stupid rules at
right,
Valley Forge.
right. Yeah, I remember because I remember the very specific story I for sure remember from the episode with James is like there was a few things we are talking about throughout the thing, and I was like, oh, we didn't mention names or whatever, and then like we brought up the whole like going out for a drive
Yeah.
thing that we would do, and I was like, and then we very quickly talked about that was our excuse to smoke a cigarette, and right away I just like threw you and Raquel both under the bus, like mentioned both names. I was like, whatever. Like they
It's
don't
college. Yeah,
right.
whatever.
The other thing though, like, and you said the word, and it is like 24 down. The authenticity of 24 down,
Yeah.
like that might be the best word. Family is an amazing word to describe 24 down, but like authenticity might be the best uh, way to describe us, because there was no judgment. Everybody was exactly who they were.
Yep.
There was no hiding anything. Like when okay, I say that, but like there's things that like people are still finding out to this day that I did those last like year and a half, whatever.
Yeah.
But I never like intentionally hid things from people. Like I didn't,
Right.
and but the good and the bad, like
Right.
every good trait was authentic too. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you
You
brought up
didn't have
that
to
word.
pretend. You didn't have to pretend. If you were being a complete idiot, people called you out, but it came from a place of love. Like, yeah. I mean, and that's real family. Like, it's not like, well, like, he's pretty good when he does this, but we just ignore like this other part. Like, we didn't do that. Like, we were there for each other. I love listening to these podcasts and hearing everybody like trying to remember what rooms they lived in, because nobody can, because that's how much of a community we were. Like, it was just like, I don't even remember who I lived with, because we just hung out with everybody all the time.
Right. You talked about how like you didn't really start getting like really close to 24 down until your junior year, but I will say like your sophomore year, which would have been my freshman year, like I
Mhm.
definitely like I recall memories of you, and I knew who you were and stuff like that, which to me leads me to think that you were still uh around, and you were like, I know you didn't live with us, but like again,
Yeah.
you were close with Baldwin, who was close with us, so
Yeah.
like you were still in that circle, and I think it just over time you got closer and closer.
Yeah.
But I do recall like even your sophomore year. Again, I wasn't there for your freshman year, but your sophomore
Yeah.
year, I recall like you still being a part of 24
Right.
down.
I would attribute it, my first connections. I can tell you like some of the people that like obviously Baldwin. I remember Rizzo and Andrew Kindler coming in, because they came in winter of, I guess it was '06, but like they came in the spring semester of my freshman year. I literally remember Tom. We did star teams, and like they did like the dumb like name activity, and he was Tactical Tom. Like, I don't know why that sticks with me after like 15 years, but it does. But I remember him and Andrew coming in and like connecting with them. Um, and then obviously I got like, so Dshat and I grew up like 5 minutes from each other. I don't know if people know that. Like, he was from Dillsburg and I was from Mechanicsburg, which are right next to each other. And we both lived on the edge of like our towns, like nearest to each other, like our whole lives. And we never met until we got to Valley Forge. Like, literally somebody said something about Dillsburg and I was like, say what? And like, we just like hit it off. So getting close with him and Majetski on 24 up then, like, and those guys would come down on 24 down. And so like, and then actually my freshman year, there was this guy, Mike Wilson, who Raquel's married to now.
Yeah.
And he lived on 24 down. I used to hang out in his room all the time too. And so I would probably attribute at least like the initial connections that I built with the group, to those guys. Yeah.
Nice. Um, no, that's cool. Like I love seeing the different like ways people connect, because everybody's got like a different
Yeah.
different way of how they connected or whatnot. So
Right.
that's really cool. I had something else I wanted to bring up, and it's slipping my mind. I'll probably remember it at some point and cut you off or whatever. But
Yeah, that's cool.
well, oh, you know what? Now I remember. Did you do so your sophomore year? Did you
Mhm.
do start teams?
Dude, I did start. Yeah. So I did
I
start teams every year.
I think I could be wrong. I think you might have been one of my start team leaders.
It's possible.
So
So
my
yeah,
my my
good.
sophomore
Yeah.
year, it was oh, I'm trying to remember her name. It was Kara, maybe, short little girl, like really short.
You know what's weird? Maybe that's Kara. So Rob Gillen lived on 24 up. He actually was a youth pastor back here, and he married a girl named Kara, and she was
Yes.
really short.
Yes, that's
Like
who.
her family had a dairy farm in Maine.
So
That sounds
she
familiar.
was one of my start team leaders. Were you ever paired up with her?
I have no
Is
idea.
dude, so either here's the thing: is either you were my
Yeah.
start team leader, or I just remember you from
Let
being one
me.
of the start team leaders because you're such a like a
Yeah.
outgoing personality. Like you can't not notice you. You
I'll
know.
tell you the. This might be why you remember me when you came in. Um, Matt Wolf came in with you too, because I remember greeting him at his car with his parents. The theme that year was like Survivor, or no, it was Lost. So they made like a fake half of an airplane and all this stuff. And they were like, yo, like Wolfie's crazy and like wild. Like, Wolfie, why don't you run around the campus on like freshman orientation day like a madman, like with a stick and like look like you're from a native from the island? And I was like, this is the stupidest idea ever, but I'm going to do it. And I literally just ran around the campus all day. And I remember, I don't know what dorm I remember just running into people's rooms with their parents there, like checking their kids in and just like screaming and waving a stick over my head, like, ah! And then just and booking it out of the room. But yeah, I did star teams every year. It's really funny because the one thing I remember about star teams is they always made the leaders write notes to each other. And every year I had a note from some leader saying like, hey, I like really thought you were a jerk like before, but then like I got to know you through this and you're like a nice guy. I think that's like a pretty good summary of how people saw me at Valley Forge.
It's like it's vague, but I do remember you, and maybe that's why I remember from the start team is because I do remember you just running around crazy and everything like that, and thinking
Yeah,
to
it was
myself
so
like,
stupid.
who is this guy? You know, like so
I
maybe.
wasn't even drinking then. Like that was just
Imagine if you were. Imagine like the craziness that would have happened then too.
yeah, loincloth for sure.
So all right, here's my my next question here for you. And this is a good one. I've got a little mini story on this too I could talk about.
Okay.
Um, comes from Phil Anderson, and he says he's wondering if you remember the time when the school rented a boxing ring for some event, and a lot of us guys took it over and started wrestling. Anyway, at one point, Wolfie came into the ring, and I gave him a hard chop across the chest, really hard, and he slid out of the ring and never came back in. That was that was me. I'm sorry, but still kind of funny. So he wants to know if you remember that at all.
Dude, I saw that and I was racking my brain all week. And
So I
I
could
don't remember that.
maybe
And then I was like, maybe that was Matt Wolf. I was
no,
like,
it, it
maybe it was me.
it was you. So I maybe this will jog your memory a
I
little bit.
can't believe Valley Forge had a boxing match or
So
something.
what it was we had it was my first year, so it was your sophomore year,
Okay.
and it was the welcome back like party that they always had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they had an inflatable boxing ring. I don't remember the name of the dorm. So
Ah,
like
okay.
all the way on the other side of campus in the front of
Damiani.
okay,
That was
it
what.
was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
there's the road right there, and then there's some grass over
Yep.
past the road, and it was set up there. I don't remember why it was set up there or whatever, but it was set up there. And so at first, like nobody was in the ring at all. Like nobody was going in doing anything.
Right.
And then I remember vividly, like I see a few guys hop in and they start doing like WWE type wrestling stuff, and
Right.
I'm a huge wrestling like mark, so I'm like, oh, like piqued my interest. So I remember like I went in there. I didn't know anybody at this point because it's like the welcome back party. Like I knew
Right.
Junior and Mike because I just met them and maybe a
Yeah.
few other guys, but I went in there. I'm like, cool. Like I'm doing some W and like didn't know these guys I was doing anything with. Whatever. It wasn't until like years and years later, like well after Valley Forge, Phil had brought up that whole thing at some point for some reason or another. And I was like, holy crap, like that was you guys? Like, so like it was crazy to me that it was like, here's these guys that for a period of my life I absolutely hated because they burned our
Right.
flag. And then later on became like amazingly close friends with these guys. And we had no idea, like we wrestled each other my very like first week of school and like had a
That's
blast
hilarious.
together, you know?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So obviously you don't remember, but
I mean, I believe it happened. 'Cause, again, I did a lot of stupid things, and it's very plausible. So, Phil, I forgive you. Apparently, you knocked like the memory out of me when you did it, but nah, you're good, man. You're good in my book always.
all right. So let's see. I got a few questions here from James Majeski.
Oh, these should be good.
He says, Wolfy from college to Wolfy now. What has changed and what has stayed the same?
Oh man. So we'll go with I'll start with like what has changed. Here's one thing that's like really weird. I actually love reading. And I probably picked it up maybe 2 to 3 years after college. My goal is to basically have a library in my house. And I don't know if it was maybe because you're forced to read at school, but a couple years out of school, like I was like, no, like this book sounds interesting. And I picked up one of the Game of Thrones book. And I probably read 20, 25 books a year. Um, it's a lot harder now with a kid, but I still probably read that many books, but it's like one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish kind of stuff. But so that's different. I kind of talked a little bit just as far as like didn't care at Valley Forge as far as like schoolwork stuff like that. Even after like Valley Forge initially, just didn't put in like the effort. Now like with my career where it's gone, like I definitely put in like the time and effort. Again, like, and my mom is like, fortunately she doesn't really talk to my boss now, but she knew my old boss, and she just would like, she'd see him and be like, yeah, it's just like so crazy because he used to be like so lazy and like never did anything. And he's like, are you sure? Because like he works pretty hard. um Stuff that's the same, I mean, like Majetsky, like I'm still sarcastic. Like I can still throw it down and just, make fun of somebody, no problem. I actually have another guy that works for me. Oh yeah, real quick. So I have Van Hussey, who lived on 24 Down, works for me. I didn't hire him. He actually works at one of the branches that I picked up, and he's been there for a few years. So I was like, dude, you got to check out this podcast, and I invited him on it. He's been listening to all of them. He loves it. But there's another guy that works with us, and he and I can just go back and forth all day, just making smart ass comments. Like, so that's definitely part of me that's the same. And I don't know.
So I think,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I probably like walking around the house in my underwear. So yeah, there you go.
Um, with Van Hussey, so I think his senior year was my freshman year
Yeah,
because
it was.
I definitely like I have memories of him. Like him and I weren't like ever really close, but like I remember him being such a huge part
Yeah,
of the floor.
he's in the picture on like the
Yeah,
24 Down page. Like he's
yeah,
in there after a dodgeball or whatever it was. Like,
yeah. So
yeah,
like, um, I'm glad that like he was able. That's the thing is like as this goes along, like I know there's still so many people that like literally have no idea that this even exists.
right. I
So
invited like a ton of people to it after I found it because I knew, like, because I was one of those guys that wasn't
right,
attached to it initially, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I gotta get this out to random people that I probably haven't even talked to because,
yeah, it's
yeah,
like I'm all about like building this thing back up to like I don't care if there's a shit ton of sorry, excuse my language. Well, you don't care. I don't care if
yeah,
there's a shit ton of people in the group because there was a shit ton of people in our 24 down family
yeah,
and like everybody that was involved, I would love them to be involved again. And so like I was really trying to like go through like everybody I was friends with I
yeah,
added and then like I really
yeah,
tried pounding into people like hey if you're friends with somebody that isn't in yet like so that's my encouragement to anybody listening now like if you
agreed,
know people that are not in the group that don't know about it like reach out to them sometimes like just sending a little Facebook invitation to the group isn't enough like reach out to them send them a message
right.
let them know what's going on um, again with the whole Canton thing that happened last week, like I'm pretty sure he had no idea any of this stuff was going on, you know. And
Right.
it's not that like we are trying to not invite. It's just like nobody's been able to
I
reach him
think I
yet.
invited him and he accepted my invite
Okay, cool.
on Facebook, which I was like, that's weird because we weren't like very close.
Right.
Like, why do
Yeah.
you accept my invite? Like,
Yeah, because I sent a bunch of friend requests, and I'm still like waiting on a few. You know, like
yeah,
Canton's one of them. I sent him a friend request, and I don't think he's intentionally ignoring me. Like people get so busy with their lives, and like
yeah, yeah,
I, it happens. Like I don't think anybody's intentionally ignoring me. But
right.
for anybody listening, if you've got people that are not in the group, reach out to them. Send them a quick little message. Hey, this is going on, whatever. Because again, there is plans to do a reunion
Yeah.
in hopefully in 2021. Um, the goal of
Yeah,
this
man.
pod, the goal of the podcast is to get everybody on at some point. Um, we're gonna do more Zoom calls down the road. So it's like the very first Zoom call that we did. I'm not kidding you, Wolf. We probably had a good 20, 25 people.
Wow.
Like it just blew me away. And we were on there for maybe 2, 3 hours, and it
The
was just like
yeah.
it was just like going back to like
Right.
everybody was busting on each other, like, and guess what? I've got a Zoom account that I think allows up to like 100 people at a time. So,
Let's do it, man. Let's
oh,
max it out.
right, right. So yes, that's my encouragement to everybody.
Yeah, I'll
Is
plug it in too. Like if you even if you think like, oh yeah, they listen to this, like don't just assume, like send them the invite. And yeah, I think, it's great. I love being able to hear stories, hear where people are. Like, I mean, like I wasn't super close with like Buddha and Pete in school, but I loved hearing their podcast and hearing that. And then the benefit from it too. So I actually, I reached out to Pete because I had somebody close to me that struggled with anxiety, and he talked about that, and I was like, this is great, And I live near Harrisburg, so like he talked about meeting with that woman, so I was like, that could probably get her name, like,
right,
um, but yeah, so like not to get like overly spiritual, but I mean I don't care. Again, like I think like part of this can be a God thing and is a God thing, and that there can be healing, there can be relationships mended, there can be stuff for people that you get out of this personally that would be beneficial to you, and yeah, like why keep that to ourselves? Like let's spread the word, spread the love, and get people involved in this.
right, for sure. I mean, like I don't want to harp on this too much, but
Right.
again, like just there's people, like I don't even necessarily, like I'm not saying when I'm like, hey, reach out to, like, I'm not even just saying people that lived in 24, like them obviously too, but
Right.
like I'm talking about people that were just like closely extended. For instance,
Yep.
like Carrie's in the group, but Raven is not. I can't
Hmm.
get a hold of Raven, like people like that, where it's like Raven was just as much a part of 24 down as anybody else too, so like why should she not be knowing
I
that
mean,
this
she
is
was the
happening?
other half of Carrie. Like they
Right.
were literally one person.
Right.
Carrie and Raven.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm gonna, when we're done with this, and you might, maybe you've already done this. I'm probably gonna message Raquel, and she may or may not know about this, but like Raquel and I were really close for a very long
Yeah.
time, even after college, and same thing. So like Raquel falls in that same thing where it's like, yeah, she didn't live on 24 down, but guess what? Everybody that did was close with Raquel, and like
Yeah.
she would
She married
have,
a 24 down OG. Like he
right,
was there at the start of 24 down.
right. So like, so I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm gonna send her a message. Like I said, you might have already done that, or maybe you plan to do that
Yep.
too.
But we
But
can do it. Yeah.
yeah, again, like everybody listening, please like reach out. We want everybody to be involved as much as possible. So, all right, let's get back to the
Yeah.
questions. We just
Sorry.
did a no.
Not
That's
sorry. Yeah.
no. It's great. It's great. Like that's what I love about this. We were on James' questions, right?
Yeah.
All right. So his second question is, he wants to know if you remember on the young adult ski trip with Jacob. We walked to the other side of the mountain to find a bar and get a drink, and then tried to hike up the mountain because we didn't want to pay for the ski lift. Why did we do that?
I don't remember hiking up the other side of the mountain. First of all, James Majetsky, can you walk around the mountain? Can you? But I do remember like going on that retreat, and like I had no interest in, like I never did winter sports in high school. Like I had friends that played hockey, kind of like you had, but like I played street hockey with them. Like I never did anything in the winter. And in Pennsylvania, that's a weird thing because everybody snowboards or skis or something. And I was like, no, I just like want to go on this retreat and hang out with people. And James was like, oh yeah, I can't do that stuff because of my legs. So I was like, cool, like let's just go find the lodge and get a beer at the bar. So that's what we did. and I 100% remember. I don't think I got in trouble, but I think James got in trouble with Pastor Jacob just because he was serving on the. Maybe I did get in trouble too, but like I think his was a little more because he was serving under Pastor Jacob. But yeah, we definitely probably reeked of beer and cigarette smoke when we came up and saw him.
So, as far as like James's version of the story of having to like hike back up the mountain or whatever like that, I could picture like you guys might have had to like go up like maybe a half a flight of steps, but to James, that's the equivalent of hiking up a mountain.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe that's why you don't remember it, you know. But
Yeah.
to
I think
him,
it was like a bunny hill. You know, we were on the ski slope, so that's probably what it was. And he
all
was
right,
probably
so
just like,
um, dude, so I don't know if you know this. I think I touched on it or not. If not, breaking news. Whenever I do my episode, quote unquote,
mm-hmm.
I'm having James be the guy interviewing me. So like,
Nice.
I know I got all this stuff coming back to me because he's not going to hold any punches, which
No, he won't. Oh, that'll be so good.
I love. All right, so this one's from Baldwin. He said, "So Wolfie was a bit of a hippie. Um,
It's
he
fair.
said half the
Yeah.
time I remember he had no shoes on. Ask him what really drove him to be so relaxed and carefree."
Uh, I think I didn't wear shoes because I couldn't afford them, and I kept ruining the shoes that I had. I literally remember throwing a pair of shoes over the power lines that were outside of 24 down. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely carefree. Like, again, kind of goes back to like what attracted me about 24 down. Just um, I was actually very shy when I was like little. I would say probably until like my sophomore year of high school. I was really uncomfortable. Like, not body image or anything like that, but I just like didn't think I had anything to contribute. So I was very shy, and it killed me. And then in college, or not, I'm sorry, in high school, um, getting connected with youth group, kind of realizing like who I was, like in the image of God. I ran cross country, and that is a very social sport. If people don't know that, it's guys and girls, and you always go to meets together, and so a lot of that helped me get out of my shell and just become very comfortable with myself. So, being carefree, like it was just like I'm gonna be who I am, like, and I'm comfortable with that, and so that's why I could run around the campus like an idiot on the first day, looking, like a madman, and then like the next day just be like in my regular clothes and just be hanging out. And that's where I knew, like, I mean, I remember I actually met Baldwin and Raquel Wilson, I think, at the same time, and they were like hanging outside of kind of that front long, like handicap ramp right outside of the back porch, and just like walking up and being like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" Like, and just sitting down and like talking to them. And so like I just knew, like, yeah, like I'm not cool, like I'm not special, but like I'm comfortable being who I am. So like I don't have to like pretend to be somebody else, and I can just, kind of hang out and talk to people and
Nice.
act like an idiot. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got one more set of questions before we get into some stories.
Sure.
Um, but before we do that, I'm gonna give you an opportunity if you want. I know you talked about you might want to take a quick little break to go grab something. So
Yes,
if
I'm
you
gonna
want to
do
do,
that. I might grab two
I
things.
was just
Yeah.
gonna say grab a few.
Yeah, and I might go to the bathroom.
All
I'll
right.
be
Yeah,
right
you're good.
back.
You're good. Well, for the YouTubers out there that are still watching, still listening, um, I'm gonna try and entertain you while Wolfie goes and grabs a drink and whatever else he's grabbing. So let me first start off with some of these plugs here that you will hear at the end of the episode as well. I'm going to always plug these every episode because they're very important. So, also, I'm going to look like a crazy man when Wolfie comes back and he sees I'm just talking to myself, but whatever, I don't care. First plug Twitter. If you got Twitter, guess what? It's free. Everybody get Twitter. It's whatever, get it. If you have it, awesome. Follow us at 24 Down Podcast. If you don't have it, get it. Follow us at 24 Down Podcast. Secretly, I don't really care if you get it or not. Like, I'm not going to come haunt you down or anything like that. Secondly, if you want to email us for any reason, you can email us 24downpodcast at gmail.com. I'm starting to realize like how silly some of these things are because, like, again, Twitter isn't that important. Who's really going to email when you could just send us a message on Facebook? It is what it is. One that's actually important is if you want to get one of these beautiful shirts here or the other shirt with just the 24 Down logo, you can go to storefrontier.com/24down. And then again, find our Facebook pages, whether it be um, the Facebook group page, Facebook podcast page. Wolfie, I swear I'm not crazy. I'm just entertaining the masses while you were away.
Now you're crazy, but you're also
And,
entertaining the masses, so that's fair.
all right, so Wolfie's back. So we are gonna get back into it. Thanks,
Let
guys,
me
for
give a plug here. My wife bought me the best gift ever, like 7, 8 years ago. Belt buckle with a bottle opener. If you don't have one, it's probably the most useful thing I have in my life.
all right. So
Anyway,
we will get back into now. We will finish out these questions here. So Dshat's got these are from Dshat, and he's got a series of
oh, good.
questions as well.
Okay.
So Dshat's first question is, and I have something to say about this too. So I'll let you answer and then kind of give you
Okay.
my thought too. He first thing he wants to know is how many items did you leave in your ceiling tiles when you left 24 down, and what all did you leave up there?
Oh shit. Sorry guys. Sorry for my brothers that don't like the language. I I think we left a kite up there. I know we left, I think, a skate deck up there, maybe. Um, I don't know. I just know we left a bunch of stuff up there. But yeah, do tell. I want to hear
So
your side of it.
so I didn't until Dshat asked me this question. I didn't know that you guys did that.
Oh,
Ironically,
okay.
ironically, myself, Francis, Mike, and I think Gene, even though Gene wasn't in our room, he was in the room next to us, and he was
Mhm.
basically in our room. The four of us did the same thing. Like, we just put. I mean, I don't know if you remember, like that last year or so. Um,
Mhm.
well, you were gone, I think, but you were probably still around here and there. It might have even been your senior year. When me and Mike and Francis lived in the room across from the apartment.
Yeah, that was my senior year. Yeah.
Yes. So we would go like Gene. It was mostly Gene and I. And like Francis would come once in a while. I don't think Mike ever came.
Mhm.
Um, we would go to Monday nights was trash night at GameStop.
Yeah.
And so we would go dumpster diving late
Oh
Monday
yeah. I
nights, and we'd come back with all these like
think
video
I
game.
came with you guys once.
I'm sure you did, yeah, because we always try to get people to come. Anyway,
Yeah.
so like,
And I was like, I don't play video games, so but
yeah,
this is great. I love dumpster diving.
right. So we had like these like promotional video game posters all over our room. Anyway, so we put
Mhm.
a bunch of those up there. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember everything we put up there, but we filled that like ceiling with just random stuff. So it's cool to hear that you guys did the same thing. I didn't
Yeah.
know that you guys did that, and maybe we talked about it and both had the same idea and did it, and I just don't remember. But
I think we're
like,
just
yeah,
cut from the same cloth and we're
right.
like, oh yeah, hell yeah, drop ceilings, let's put stuff in it.
I Part of me wonders if to this day that stuff would still be up there.
If it's in 24 down, it's probably disintegrated. It,
So what I heard was 24 down as a storage unit.
yeah, I've heard that too. I
Um,
think they tore down 23.
okay.
I think from what I know, the apartments that were behind us, but I'm pretty sure 24 is still there. And I know, yeah, I mean from the other podcasts and stuff. My wife actually works for this company called His Fund, and it was actually founded by Bongiorno, the guy that the Bongiorno Hall is named after. And it's like a AG affiliated kind of investment company thing. And, but she knows like all this stuff about Valley Forge now, which is hilarious because she didn't go there at all. And she talks to like people that are pastors now that like we graduated with, and it's funny because she was not part of like AG school world. And yeah, she doesn't have like any like big updates like about Valley Forge, but I think she shared with me sometimes like, oh yeah, I heard this happened or I knew this happened, and I was like, I didn't know that.
Right.
It was interesting.
Well, whenever the reunion happens, um, if anybody is close enough with like me, I'm not going to fall into this category. If anybody's close enough with somebody high up in the school that will let us go into 24 down and check those ceilings, like that'd be awesome just to see like what kind of treasures we may or may not find.
I mean, we
If they're
could get. I mean, Valley Forge security isn't it isn't really the best, so We could probably check it out. Yeah.
Were you there? Were you there the night that um, we did it a few times, but there was one iconic night that we messed with campus security. Were you there for
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah. So that was like, yeah, that's like actually that was one of the stories I wanted to share. That was like my one of my memories of like the last things that we did before I graduated. That was just like a hilarious prank. And I remember I literally think it was our last like floor meeting that we had, and we were just sitting there. And we were like, we got to do something like crazy. Like this is 24 down, and I don't remember where the idea came from, but we are like, well, let's just go outside our dorm and like create a ruckus and like attract the security. And then it was like, well, let's chant four down, and they'll think we're all four down guys. And I do remember Josh Lee because he was RA. He called security and was like, "Yeah, like I think four down is out there, like causing a ruckus, like or something." And so we just kept doing it, and like sure as here they came, like security just creeped around that like RD building or whatever. And I just remember we were like screaming at the top of our lungs, and here comes the car, like lights off, slowly edges around the building, and somebody was just like, "Oh shit, security!" And like the lights flicked on, he just like floored it, and we scattered like cockroaches. And I think it was like a cat and mouse chase for like 2 hours. This guy was just going all over campus, like trying to find whoever this was. And he did come back to 24 down. And I remember I was sitting in right outside my room in that stairwell, and I don't remember who was with me. And I think D-Shat was there. And he came in, and I was like, "Hey, like, what's going on, man?" And he's like, "Have you guys seen it?" And I was like, "No, like." And I think Maddie, because Maddie B lived with us. If you guys remember Maddie, like he walked out and had like the worst like sleeping impression. He was like, "Oh, what's up, guys?" Like it was so bad. But this poor security guard, I have found this to be true. Like now, especially like people will open up to me, and I think it's just like because I'm also like a calm person to talk to. And like this guy just was like, man, like let me tell you, like it's like me and like 900 students. Like I'm only one security guard, and like he's like pouring out his frustrations, and I'm like, it was us, it was us. Like, but that was like I remember that being like I think kind of like one of the last pranks or whatever you want to call it that we did before I graduated.
So I don't remember, again, I don't remember if it happened on multiple occasions or if it was one that like morphed into like more, because I
Mm-hmm.
completely forgot about the whole like Josh Lee calling and being like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think like that." Like now I clear as day remember that. But I know it was either that same time and it morphed into more later than it was supposed to be, or it was a
Mm-hmm.
separate time. Like my specific memories were we knew we were gonna do this, and so we went to dinner that night prior, and a bunch of us loaded up on, because remember they always had like those fruit baskets or whatever when you would leave the
Yeah.
cafeteria. A bunch of us loaded up on like fruit, like apples, oranges, like bananas, a bunch of stuff, because we were like, all right, we're going to use these tonight. So again, I don't remember if this was that time and then a few of us took it too far, or if this was a separate time. But what I recall is at one point we went over near the mail room, which is where the camp security office
Mm-hmm.
was or whatever,
Yeah.
and we start chucking this fruit at the window, waiting for this guy to like open the window, and he finally opens the window, and I'll never forget this. Alex Anderson, because it's night out, so you can't see who's doing this. You just hear fruit hitting the window.
Uh,
Guy opens the window, and Alex Anderson yells out, "Come out and play, you fat bastard!" And like, just and so then like the other thing we had done
oh my God, that's
was
so good.
prior to doing this, we put a bench, like a little bench behind campus security's car, so that when he actually came out to chase us and back up out of his parking spot, had he not checked, he would have backed over a bench. Well, sure shit, he didn't check. Nails this bench.
Oh my
So
God.
we're all dying. And then do you remember the guy? I can't remember his. I want to say Jacob. Maybe he was the LARPer on campus. He always wore like the like
Is he
not
like a
cow,
big heavy guy?
no, real like
Oh,
skinny,
okay.
scrawny with a beard. Um, he would wear like
No,
he would wear
I
like a
don't think I
hat
remember
with
him.
like a really it wasn't I don't think it was a cowboy hat, but some hat with like a really big brim, like trench coat. He always carry around his like foam sword and everything like that. See now
No, I
this
don't remember
maybe
him,
this
but
maybe this might have all happened. So maybe there was a second time we did it after you graduated. But
maybe
anyway, I
maybe that
want to.
person didn't exist at maybe.
No, he existed. He existed. Gene can confirm he existed because
Okay,
let me
that's
tell
fair.
you the story, and I'm sure the story will come up again when Gene has his episode.
Yeah.
But so as we're doing this, this campus security guy is friends with this larper,
Mhm.
and he goes and grabs him to help chase us down. And so we're in the what was that what was the area they always had graduation? What was that called? The
I don't remember, but I
Hall
know
of
what you're talking about. Right when you drive on campus, and there's
Hall
like the
of
whole
Commons
thing.
maybe or something like that.
Nah, I don't know.
Whatever.
That's
Anyway,
definitely not what it was called, but I know it was,
whatever.
but it was something.
So we were all in there, and
Yeah.
it was night. Campus security's vehicle just comes screeching out, literally cutting across the lawn, like so. We all bolt. So now we're running. They're chasing us all around campus. Gene and I end up behind the cafeteria. Um, I don't even know how we got back there, but we end up behind the cafeteria, and we're sitting there catching our breath. And here comes this larper kid, and he just like out of nowhere comes out and he just hisses at us. He's just like, hiss. And Gina and I are like, oh shit. We started running. I wipe out, like completely bust my knees open. I'm bleeding all over the place, get back up running. Like, yeah, it was a mess. So I don't, maybe that was a separate night that we messed with
I,
campus security. I don't
yeah, I feel like I would remember even hearing about the hissing.
know. Right, right.
Who does that?
All right, exactly. That was like it was like one of those things where it's like I almost instantly knew it was him, but at the same time, like scared the shit out of me for whatever reason because it's just something you don't expect to happen, you know.
That is so weird.
Um,
Let's get
all
that
right,
guy on this podcast.
yeah, right. If I could remember his name, somebody remembers his name. Um, all right, so back to the D-Shat questions. These are some good ones here. So,
Yeah,
um,
D-Shat, I love you.
he
He
wants to
knows
know
that.
if there was ever anything you did at college that you were nervous or afraid I would find out about.
Oh, that D-Shat would find out about. No, I don't think so. No, because I'm pretty sure he knew like everything that we did at school.
Right.
Um, I know like other roommates of ours like that, he kind of went at it with them, but no, I mean I again like we didn't do anything illegal. Like we just did, stupid. I mean, some rules at Valley Forge are there for a place, but like some were stupid and no, I never did anything that I would be afraid about D-Shat knowing about because our love is real. Our
Right.
relationship's real and like he's my brother and like wouldn't hide something from him. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. All right. So, and I know you kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit, and you kind of have touched on some of it a little bit already. But this question kind of fits right in with that thought. He says you always seem to slip under the radar when it came to mischief. Did you
Oh
ever
man.
actually get in trouble at Valley Forge?
Yeah, so this was like, I mean, you guys like you talked about it, Rick talked about it, Francis talked about it, like everybody basically talks about at some point getting suspended. I never got suspended at Valley Forge, and maybe that would surprise some people. I mean, it sure as shit surprises me. Like, I don't know how I didn't, because I literally did everything that I didn't do what Rick did, but other than that, I probably did everything that everybody else did that they got suspended for. And well, I didn't steal a fridge, Francis, but yeah, I don't know how I slipped under the radar. How like I did get in trouble though once my freshman year, and it's freaking great. I forget who it was that I was with. It was like three other people, just random people. I don't even think I really hung out with them that much, like college from that point. But like we got in a car. For some reason, we put towels on our head and we drove around and we would just find people making out in their cars in the parking lots and we would just sat beside them and stared at them until they stopped. And we just kept doing it all. We did it for probably like an hour and a half. And then somebody was upset that we kept doing it to them and called campus security. And we like they found us and we like floored it, and we kind of same thing. Like we ran, I think, up until like the quad or near the library, and security actually like ramped up into the grass. And I remember I lived in Beisel Annex at that time, was actually a guy's dorm. That was where I first lived when I came to Valley Forge. And so I had a different RD, and like I had to go in and sit with him, and he was like, this is like he made it like this very serious thing. And I was like we had towels on our head. Like it was so stupid. But like, security, and like these people could have been threatened. And like he gave me this whole spiel and was like, I'm gonna have to talk to the other RDs about this, because I think the 4 people had different RDs. And like, of course, like the other guy had Mark, and like I don't think I would be interested to hear like what happened if Mark remembers this, or he probably doesn't, because it was that dumb. He probably never even met with the guy, and like nothing came from it. Like I was good. I wasn't in trouble. Like I got in trouble, had to go to RD. I think that was the only time I ever had to go in and sit down with a residence director or somebody like that. I do remember one time, I think Alex was with me, and I had a roommate with me, and we went out and smoked cigars and came back, and like something happened. There was a fire alarm or something, and everybody was outside of 24 down. And obviously we reeked like cigars. And of course, like Josh Lee was the RA at the time. So he took us each one into his room and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, like we just wanted to blow off some steam. So like we just went out and bought some cigars and smoked them." Like, and he was like, "All right, well, like, like you're here for a reason, like don't be stupid." And I'm like, "All right, like cool." And then like another person that went in the room was like, "Oh man, I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't do anything." Like it was right after me, and I was like, "Hey, how'd it go?" And he's like, "I denied everything." And I was like, "You idiot!" I straight up told him like, "Yeah, we did it," and like he was fine with it. Like, but I will say, so here is one thing that I find hilarious, and this has come up repeatedly in podcasts, and I loved when we heard about it in Colleen's. The night that everybody saw 300, I saw 300. I just went home and saw it with my girlfriend. I was home for that weekend because I was asking her about it after I listened to Colleen's podcast. And I was like, "Do you remember? I remember us going to see 300 in the theaters." She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wasn't that like opening weekend?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course it was." I was like, "Oh, that's so funny." So like somehow like I just like I don't know, flew by seat of my pants, skirted past, never get in trouble. I did get approached once about smoking. I feel like I wanted to say this. I feel like Han Solo, like when he's old as balls, like in the last Star Wars, and he's like, all the stories, they're true. I did get approached for smoking in my bathroom in 24 Up, and that is 100% true that I did that. I think with jet skis described it to a T. Like I would put a fan in the window, and I just like Tom Harshberg used to say, like one time he walked by and saw a puff of smoke come out from under my door, and I was like, all right, that's not true. That's a little like the rooms aren't set up that way. That's a little too much. But yeah, they came to me, and I was like, no, I definitely don't do that. And like 100% was doing it all the time. So again, I have no idea how I didn't like get in like real trouble, like suspension or anything like that. But I definitely got called out by Valley Forge leadership or whatever a couple times, but never to the point like that it really was like something serious.
So I don't. I off the top of my head, I don't think I ever smoked a cigarette in my room. On campus, probably on campus, definitely either in my
Oh,
car
I got
just
a story about that. Yeah.
driving in the back of campus, or just walking back like in the little nature area and smoke.
Yeah.
Like definitely, but I don't think I ever smoked a cigarette in my room. But I smoked the shit out of hookah in my room, like
Oh
nonstop.
yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember you guys having like bubbles and blowing like hookah bubbles.
Yes, we would put a towel at the edge of the door so like
Yep.
nothing came
Yep.
out, and we'd have our windows open because like the room we were in 117 was big enough to where like we didn't have to blow it outside the window so nobody could see like the
Right.
smoke coming
Right.
out, but we had them open so like some of the smell would come out.
Yeah.
But we were able to and like many a night
I
did we
forgot about
smoke
that.
hookah in
That's
that
right.
room.
Yeah. So I do have a funny story about smoking on campus too. When I lived on 24 down, I lived in that apartment at the end of the hall. And I had that room. Somebody else was talking about it on one of their podcasts, but I lived in that room that literally like the apartment had a door on like the 24 down hall, and then like that room had a door directly into the stairwell that went
Yes.
outside.
Yep.
And there was one night I used to go up behind the boiler room because then like when I lived on 24 down, like I couldn't do it in my room. It would be very obvious. It was on the first floor. Like, so I figured out, oh yeah, I can walk behind the boiler room, which was on the other side of the road from 23 behind us. And one night I came out of my room and like at the same exact time I opened my door and walked out of it, another guy from 24 down, who I'm not going to say who it was, but they came out of the door from the floor. I'm like, hey man, what's up? Like, hey, like not much. Like, it was probably like 11 o'clock or something like that. And we both walk outside and we turn left, like towards the road there. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, what are you up to? Oh, not much. Like, all right, man. Well, hey, have a good night. And like, I kept walking out into the street and they stayed on the sidewalk, I think. And like, we both turned and like, they walked down the sidewalk and I walked down the street. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, where's this guy? He must be going to 23. Nope. Across the street, like, we're both walking towards the back of the boiler room. And I'm like, this is weird. This guy's messing with me. And like we literally like just both walked up behind the boiler room and we probably stood there for like 30 seconds not saying anything. And he was like, well, if you're not gonna smoke like I am, and like we both like I was like, all right, cool. Like and like I had no idea that this person did it. And it was like the weird like and there was like I think a little bit of a club of like those that didn't necessarily abide by the rules. Like you would find out like somebody else did it and you're like, oh wow, like interesting. I'm not like alone in like feeling like I don't want to like follow these rules necessarily all the time. It was
Right.
like this special bond, but I significantly remember that because it was just like the weirdest thing because we just kept walking along each other, not saying anything until it was pretty much like shit or get off the pot. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's we bring up like smoking. So like again, and I'm not going to name drop everybody. I'll just name drop the people I already have. So like it was you, me, James, Raquel, um, Alex Anderson's not going to give a fuck. Alex
Right.
Anderson,
Don
but
Meyer.
that
Yeah.
definitely. But it was like you're right. There was some sort of like just separate bond of like, hey, like we're all breaking this rule
Yeah.
together. Like there's somebody that literally popped in my mind just now. Like haven't thought about the fact that he was a smoker. Just instantly popped in my mind. I won't mention his name.
Right.
Um, it's just like it's crazy. Like we had, but it makes me think like that was just within our 24 down group. Like
Yeah.
if that small of a group of people from the whole broad campus was doing it, like probably there was probably a bunch of people like
Oh,
actually
there
doing it.
was. And I don't think we thought we were like cool or like we were
No,
hot shit or anything. It's just like we did it. And like it was just like, oh, you have a secret too? Like, cool.
right.
I remember there was my senior year. I remember a girl coming into the school and she looked a lot like my sister. And like, I don't remember her name. I don't remember anything about her, but like, she just dead on looked like my sister. And like, every time I saw her, like, I'd be like, "Is that my sister? Like, that looks like my sister." And the night after we graduated, when we went out into Phoenixville, I remember bumping into her like in a bar. And I was like, oh, like you're out here too. This is so cool. Like I'm Wolfy, by the way. And she's like, oh my God, I thought you hated me and judged me because you would always give me these looks. And I was like, I was probably looking at you weird because I thought you were my sister. And like, but I was like, but I know like you're like me. So like we're cool. And I felt so bad because she thought I was judging her because of what she was doing. That I 100% was probably doing more than she was.
Well, I mean, it's no secret. Like I've talked about it at some like my last year and a half. Like you talk about you not being the cookie cutter model of a Valley Forge student. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was walking around campus with beer in my
Yeah, I didn't
cup.
know that. That
Yeah,
surprised me.
like so like. I for me personally, I just got to a point where it's like I was so done with the hypocrisy that I was seeing,
Right.
and it pushed me. And
Yeah.
again, so like same thing, like I wasn't doing it to be like, oh, look how cool I am breaking all the rules. I just like I didn't care. Like I knew, even though I wasn't living the best quote unquote Christian life, like I knew
Mm.
my walk with God, what it was. I knew
Right.
my beliefs, and those were very like strong foundationals, and I didn't care that, oh, I'm not following this particular rule. Like
Yeah.
there might have been like a small part of it after I left. Like I left and I moved back to Michigan. Six
Right.
months later, I moved back to Pennsylvania,
Right.
and so I still had friends that went to Valley Forge. At that point, I'm not a student, so there was actually at that point there was probably a little bit where I was like, oh yeah, like I'm kind of hot shit because I would legit walk or drive onto campus to visit people, smoking a cigarette as intentionally as I could because I'm like, can't
Right.
do shit about it. I'm not a
You're
student here,
like,
you know.
hey, Dr.
Um,
Meyer. Hey,
right,
Dr. Mortensen, how are you doing?
right.
You want to borrow one? Like, yeah. No, I mean,
So
there was part of it that was like, I think, again, like, I think you and I are in some ways cut from the same cloth, and it was like just like the rebellious nature.
for
Like, I'm
sure,
not like a bold like rebel, but there's like some stuff that I'm like, oh, you're gonna give me that role, like I'm gonna break it because I think
right,
it's stupid, and I'm
right,
not gonna be shy about it either. And like I do feel like some of like the stuff we talked about, like that hypocrisy piece of Valley Forge, like kind of eats away at you a little bit sometimes. And I do think like, and I've heard guys talk about like going into like a dark place, and I think that was some of it. Like, yeah, I do know my senior year there was moments like, and there was probably things where I like went a little too far with like breaking the rules in some of those senses. But like, what are you gonna do now? And like, we're outside of college, like it's the real world. There aren't rules against drinking and smoking and stuff like that. So like,
right, right. No, that's
or
good.
rated R movies.
All right, so one last question from D-Shat, and then after that we'll
Oh,
get
okay.
into any of the stories you wanna touch on. So D-Shat's last question is he wants to know what the greatest soundtrack for an intramural basketball team is.
Space Jam soundtrack, 100%. I think that was when we were on 24 Up though, but we got a boombox and we just blasted the Monstars anthem, and we
Nice.
would just come in. And was it Kindler that talked about coaching for 24 Down, and he would wear suit and stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that same thing for 24 Up. I remember coming in with the clipboard. I think I think we literally, like, we were terrible. Maybe that, I don't remember. It might have been before 24 Up, but I know one of the teams that I like did something with literally did the flying V from Mighty Ducks, like playing intramural basketball. Like, yeah. But yes, Space Jam, specifically the Monstars anthem.
Yeah, I figured that was like an insight because I didn't recall that. Like when he asked the question, I was like, this is obviously an inside joke, and I didn't know. So that
Yeah.
it must have been when you guys were out.
It was when we were like the 24 Up B team, because there was like the
Oh,
24 Up A team that could
yes,
play basketball, and we
yeah,
were the 24 Up B team. Like,
which is
we
way
were
more fun
terrible.
anyway.
And yeah, oh yeah, because but I remember there was one guy on our team that took it seriously, and I remember he cried when we lost a game, and I was like, bro, we're the B team. Like,
So
we know we
I
suck.
played, like, I don't remember what year it was. There was one year that I was on the quote unquote on the intramural basketball team. I played only one game and not even the full game. I just got in for a few minutes because I'm terrible. Like hockey and soccer were always my sports. Anything
Yeah,
else you put me into football, baseball, basketball, like I'm complete shit.
yeah.
But I wanted to do it just because I was like with with the boys. And so my intramural basketball career, I have 1 point because I got fouled and I missed a
Oh, you
free
even got a
throw.
point.
I missed one and I made one. So I have one intramural basketball point in my
That's
career.
something to be proud of, man.
Right? Right?
I mean, how many guys only have 1 point? So
Right.
like, there you
Hey, it's
go.
all right.
I
So now,
think
oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say that actually. So that I did have not really a story, but it did remind me of something I want to talk about with, because I was not good at sports. Like, I was not at the competitiveness level of like some of the other guys on 24 Down, but I could heckle the shit out of like other teams. And I remember just like, I mean, soccer games, basketball games, intramural games, like, but especially like the other games that we had when we played like Lancaster Bible or like Davis and like these other schools. and 24 down, not just myself, but 24 down especially was so good at getting under the skin. And there was a couple like specific. So first of all, I remember parents from other teams walking up to me and asking me my name. I was like, I'm Carl Wolf. Like, well, we're gonna write a letter to your dean. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm just getting under your team's skin, and apparently it worked. Like,
All right.
but I remember, I don't know if you were there, but like the Davis soccer game. So Dshat dated a girl, and they broke up, and she dated the goalie of Davis's soccer team, and it was actually like a really like high tense game like that. It was like we were equal teams, almost like rivals or something like that. And we just like we were unrelenting, and like they were getting mad. And the one part of that game I specifically remember, I remember Tom Harsberger got yellow carded, or maybe got red carded, but like he just like waved his hand in somebody's face like when they were throwing it in. Like it was the dumbest thing, and he got a yellow card, and he was like, cool, all right, this is great. Like, but I remember we said something, and one of the guys on their team just turned to us, like near us with the ball, and just kicked it as hard as he could at the stands, like right there on the back of the campus where we had that dome, because it wasn't a flat soccer field. And obviously the ball was out, and Matt Baldwin was on the team at that time, and he came over to throw it in, and he was like, come on guys, just like chill out, like chill down. And I was like, okay, Matt, like, geez. And he went to throw it in, and like the guy that kicked that at us was like standing right there and said something, and he threw it like full-fledged at the guy's chest. Yellow carded. But I remember that, and I remember there was a basketball game, I think, and the other team had like cheerleaders, and we all started like cheerleading, and we started doing like, and I think you and Mikey were doing like gymnastics or something, and their like cheerleading coach got so mad and like just came in and like laid into you guys, and like everybody was probably like like maybe looked serious, but was just laughing like hysterically because it was ridiculous.
I was gonna bring this up since you brought the topic up. So we were playing. It was basketball, and we were playing Penn State Abington. So it was like for Valley Forge to play Penn State Abington.
We played Penn State,
right? Like that was kind of a high caliber matchup for us to play. Whatever. But so they had their cheer, because they were Penn State. Technically, they had a cheerleading squad, and they brought them out or whatever. And so again, it was 24 down guys. Again, like you said, we were great at heckling, and so we see this happening, and we're like, we could do our own cheerleading thing. Like I remember like making a pyramid, like everything, like just and the girls, the cheerleaders were cracking up the whole time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they thought it was hilarious.
They loved it. The fans, and like our fans, whatever, were cracking up. Players loved it, whatever. The only person that got pissed was their coach.
Yeah.
And she came over. I remember she came over, got right in my face, and she was like, I've been coaching. I was a coach at Penn State main campus for 15 years, and in all my career, I've never seen something more disrespectful than this.
God. I remember like, her saying those words.
I remember being like, ma'am, if me making a pyramid with some guys is the most disrespectful thing you've seen, like there's no
you have
way.
A good life, man.
Right. No, that's hilarious. Like that I will never forget that either. Like
I literally remember her saying those words.
Literally everybody. I mean, the refs, the players, the other cheerleaders.
I remember the cheerleaders. They were like cracking up. They were like, this is hilarious.
I think we got
stupid, skinny, dumb guys are trying to do cheerleading gymnastics. Like,
I think we got like high fives from them as they were leaving too. You know? But the coach was like, no, like, how dare you like disrespect my profession of cheering or whatever. Who knows why she was mad.
And it's like the weirdest thing, because like, I mean, if you ever go to like a real college like football game, or like if you ever go to a freaking real professional sporting game, that's all people do in the stand. I mean, you're a hockey fan, like,
right?
It's like that's how sports is, and that's how people are. But again, like we went to this quiet school, like little school, like it's not allowed here.
That's what baffled me, was the fact that she said, "Oh, I coached for this many years, including at Penn State main campus, and this is the most disrespect." I'm like, there's no way that us making a little pyramid and doing some little dances is the most disrespectful.
I mean, to be fair, most people don't heckle the cheerleaders. Usually, they're heckling the team
for sure. But there's no way that's the
Cheerleaders are
most.
competitors too.
There's no way that's the most disrespectful thing she's seen. They can guarantee it. There's no way. Like I
I don't know,
guarantee
man. She could
she's.
live a very privileged life.
But if she truly coached at Penn State like said she did, then she had to have sat on some sidelines where beer was getting chucked at the whole sideline.
Right.
Like it just
Right.
come on. But anyway, so no, that's awesome.
Yeah, sorry. I kind of was like, oh, that reminds me of a good story. Yeah.
No, that's good. So before we get into, I know there's a few more stories you want to go into. Before we get into
Yeah,
that, I'm gonna take a quick little break here. So
it's fair.
if you want, you can entertain the masses while you're gone for YouTube. If not, it'll just be some dead air. But give me like
Oh,
2 minutes. And
okay.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's fine. It's been a while since I talked to myself. Entertaining the masses. I'm trying to think. Maybe I could talk about previous podcasts that I heard. D-Shat, I love you. You are my brother, man. I mean, I probably knew a lot of what you shared on the podcast, but there was still stuff that I learned and heard from you, and super excited for your book. Andrew, I actually wanted to reach out to you. I wanted to ask you about when you were overseas. My wife had a roommate from college who also served in the Air Force and was stationed where you were. So I wanted to reach out to you, and I'm sorry I never did, to ask if you knew this guy. But again, really good stuff. Loved hearing about your heart for serving. Thank you for your service. Buddha, I was driving on my way to work when you did the girl scream, and I could not stop laughing. So awesome to see the stuff you're posting about your weight loss, man. Big Daddy, really appreciated your openness and your open heartedness. I'm just kind of shouting out to all the people that did podcasts before me. But yeah, Big Daddy, really sorry that you experienced that, man. Coming out like I kind of said, like recognizing like this is tough. I mean, I interned at a church and I thought it went pretty well, but I kind of felt what you said. Like they basically used me as a guinea pig and almost like slave labor, even though it was a great experience. But yeah, really appreciated your openness. Francis, seeing you guys, and when you sent me the video, I don't know if it's you or Francis that sent me the video of you guys on those mini bikes, but it literally was how I was picturing it. And I'm so glad that's what it was because it was so funny. Imagine you guys riding those things. Matthias, I am actually really disappointed that we do not hang out more because we are both relatively close to each other in the Harrisburg area. But definitely really appreciated you being my barber on campus. And it was a very big challenge for me to find somebody to cut my hair after college. And Pete, like I said, I reached out to you. So glad that you're doing well with your own business, and thank you for being honest and open with your struggles and how you overcame those. Majetsky, you're a son of a bitch. Junior, I love you, brother. You made me laugh and cry like in the same podcast, so I knew that was a good one. Colleen, you are loud, and I hope that never changes. Although it was sometimes during your podcast, it was a little hard to hear you, which I thought was kind of funny. But no, I mean, to go back to James, I love that guy so much. We got to connect, brother. You were the guy that called me out and got me kind of hooked on this and thinking, all right, maybe I'm being dumb here and I should listen to this. So there you go. Filled some time.
Nice. I will cut that in to the very end of this podcast for the audio.
Okay.
You YouTubers, you got the nice little bonus now, but I'll put your reviews in there because I think for the people that listen only, they'll want to hear all that stuff.
Yeah, I've never watched the videos.
Okay.
Because I would listen to them like while I was doing stuff. I'm a dad, and like you don't have a lot of time, so like I have like a 20-25 minute drive to work, so like I would just listen to it on the way there. It was like the best part of my morning.
Yeah, we
And then yeah, doing stuff around the house. I just pop in headphones, listen to it, check it out. Yeah.
yeah, the only reason we started doing the video as well is just in case like so let's say you haven't seen Rizzo in 10 years and he's like, I wonder what like Wolfie looks like and he wants to like watch it, like that's pretty much the point. So people can
Right.
like see as well.
Yeah. It's good.
All right, well let's get back into it. All right, so there's some stories that you wanna talk about. So I'll kind of let you go and bring up whatever stories you'd like. I know I've got a list of them here as well in case you uh, skip any or whatever. So
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I'm trying to think because we actually covered a good amount of stuff that I like was thinking about.
so one of the things you wanted to talk, I'll just bring one up
Yeah,
was
that's good.
Penhurst. You wanted to talk about Penhurst.
Yeah. Did you know about Penhurst?
So
Were
I
you around for that? I can't remember when that was.
I knew about it, but I never went while I was a student.
Okay.
Years after I went when it was a tourist attraction, but I
Oh,
never
I
went.
never knew it was a tourist.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, it's a complete tourist attraction now. They like you pay to go in,
interesting.
it's like a haunted thing, whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember. I know Gene and Francis were there, and it might have been when Francis hung out with. I forget the guy's name, but he talked about him on his podcast. Like one of the guys he didn't like want to hang out with anymore at some point. So, but so Penhurst, for those of you that don't know, was basically a state. I don't know if it was state, but it was an insane asylum that got shut down in like the late 70s because they found out they were abusing kids and like pretty much like when you see like bad insane asylums in the movies and all that stuff, like that's what Penhurst was. So it got shut down. It was all run down. It was actually really close, I think, to a National Guard base or something like that. So you couldn't just like really go in there. You had to be very careful. Maybe it was I feel like it was my sophomore year, but I know Gene and Francis were with me and a couple other guys. And like we parked really far down, walked up to it, snuck in, and like basically like toured this abandoned insane asylum. And like just like Valley Forge, there was tunnels underground. Like it was creepy. It was spooky. One of the guys really wanted to find the morgue, which is like thinking back, I'm like we never did, and I'm kind of like, well, I'm okay with that. Like there's enough like weird spiritual crap that goes on. Like I don't think I need to go in the morgue of this like crazy insane asylum that was shut down for abusing people. Like, but I do remember. And I'd love to hear Gene or Francis talk about this then, because we were walking around upstairs in some building, like whatever, and we just hear a scream and a flash of light, and then like just we see this body like bolt past us, and like we had no idea what the hell was going on. It was pretty freaky. So what happened was there was actually a couple there that were like professional, like you watch the shows now or you see them like the Ghost Adventures and stuff. This couple like did that professionally, like for like a hobby. They would break into insane asylums and tour them and film them and all this stuff, and they thought we were security, so they hid in a closet, and one of the guys with us was just being stupid and like opened the closet, and their plan was, this couple was to flash security with their camera so they were blind, and the boyfriend or husband would run, and the woman that was with him would just stay there. Well, like he ran, and like it was like just a bunch of us guys like, what the hell's going on? Like we said, and they realized what happened, and so they came back and like just talked to us. We ended up talking for like 20 minutes, and they told their story, and we're like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, we go to this college nearby, like, and we got a picture with them. This was pre iPhones. God, we're freaking old. So yeah, this is pre iPhones. So they had a camera with them. They took a picture of it, and none of us like got their information, like to get the picture or anything like that. And I'm not kidding. Like 2 years later, I think it was Francis was like, "Yo, one of my friends like was just like, hey, I saw you on this random website," and like one of his friends like saw this picture of us with these people like when they were like out perusing the internet from like 2 years ago from breaking into Penhurst, and like I just cracked me up. Like I was like, that is, we never thought we were going to see that picture again. And I knew like that was just like a funny experience I remember with having with Gene and Francis. I don't think there was any other like 24 down guys that were with us. at
That's
that
pretty
time.
that's pretty crazy because I remember hearing the stories of you guys going there, but I never heard that full of a
Hmm.
story and meeting up with people that did that as a hobby and then like finding your picture years later. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I remember, I think it was whenever like he lived in the the big room at the end of the hall, 117, and just being like, "Yo, Wolfie," like what?
That's crazy. Um, so obviously like they you know you ran into those people who were doing this
Mm.
ghost hunting as a hobby or whatever like that. Um, but they were not the only people with a hobby. You had a hobby of doing some stand up comedy, and I know you wanted to talk about the
Oh
Who's
yeah,
Line
yeah. So that was Triforce, Matthias, Baldwin, and I. That's just what we called ourselves. And I think Rick did one of the Who's lines. There was like, I mean, 24 Down, like, we're all hilarious in our own ways. But I remember, I know they did like some, like, just basically like Who's Lines night with the campus. And then they started doing it at Breakaway. And I'm sorry, like, if this sounds arrogant, but people came to see Matt Matias, Matt Baldwin, and Wolfie. Like,
for sure.
and it we were just so I want to hear Baldwin's talk about this because he ran his head through the wall and put a hole in the wall the one night. But we would just like we were at the top of our game, like just doing like stupid improv and yeah, I just remember loving it. You know, we were all like loved the attention, but like more so just like loved making people laugh. Like Matt Matias, Matt Baldwin, and myself, like clearly enjoy like putting smiles on people's faces, like unless they piss us off. But yeah, Whose Line was definitely, and I think we did that. I think that started like our junior year, and Kristen Matthias was who kind of led that up, who was probably like one of the coolest RDs and like one of the probably leadership people at Valley Forge that people really respected and got along with, like no matter where they came from. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I honestly like I feel bad, but I completely 100% forgot about her until you just mentioned her name. And now, like,
Yeah,
my instant thought was like, oh yeah, she was really, really cool. So,
I
you
think
know,
I
like,
took drama with her one year. Like she taught drama,
yeah,
and I don't know why. Like I think I only took it because probably I needed a credit for something that was for, and she was like the coolest person, and I was like, well,
right,
hell yeah, I want a class with her.
yeah, no, that's really cool. Um, well, speaking of comedy, um, there's something that we're gonna bring back here pretty soon, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But I know you wanted to talk about the roasts, and
Yeah,
specifically, I think Majeski's roast. So,
yeah. I so again, I don't want to sound arrogant. I will take full credit for coming up with the idea of the original roast. So I knew when Majetsky was leaving, that was really I think he was the first time that somebody really a part of our family, and I apologize if maybe there was somebody before him that left, like Valley Forge didn't graduate, but like, kind of just realized like Valley Forge isn't quite the right place for me. Like I need to move on. Um, and maybe for me, that was just like maybe he was the first one that I had that experience with 24 down. I mean, clearly I had it before because, like I said, my freshman year, like more than like 75% of my friends left. Like,
all right,
but yeah, I just remember like being like, wow, like James is going to leave Valley Forge. Like, we got to do something. We got to send him off in the right way. And like, I don't know, I don't remember like how we came up with it, like how we scrounged it together, how it like I completely forgot that like it was like, oh yeah, like let's go on a walk, and then like we were all in that one room. And it's funny that night or whenever I listened to that podcast, I was telling my wife about it and she's like, yeah, I was there. And I was like, what? And she's like, I was with you that night. Like I was visiting Valley Forge and like I was at his roast. And I just remember like we like went at it like classic roast style. Like we just ragged on everybody that was in the room. Like if you were present, you were not safe. Like, and we just like we laughed hysterically. And I remember doing it again for Didn't Rizzo and Andrew leave the same semester?
Yes.
And
Yep.
I remember doing it for them.
Yep.
I think we did it maybe after that too, but those were the two that I significantly remembered. And like, yeah, I'm excited. I don't know any of the details about this future roast that's coming, but like, um, again, like, and people talk about it, like that's part of who we are, like, and people couldn't hack it with our group because they took things personally, but like, we dished it out and we took it, like, and it was just like, family, just like you beat up on your brother, but you still love him, like, and we would just beat on each other verbally and then hug it out at the end. Like, I love those roasts so much.
So, so just to, I mean, this is the perfect time for me to just kind of like, I guess,
Yeah, while you do that, I'm gonna use my belt
yeah.
buckle can opener, bottle opener.
um, so the the roasts are coming back, and I'll kind of give the everybody the heads up. This is, I guess, a little promotional part of this episode here. So I've decided that just to out of I guess out of fairness, so in in order to not uh, it's been a while, and I know that like I can take it still, so I decided that like I will be the first person to get roasted just because I know that I don't care what's said about me, and I'll think it's hilarious. Where like it's been a few years, maybe if we picked the wrong person first, maybe it went south, and like then it just ends. Probably not, but like I just wanted to be safe about it. So it's gonna happen. I don't have an exact date yet. Coming up pretty soon. James Majeski had a brilliant idea that the roast needs to happen after my episode because
Yes,
whenever my episode happens, it might give some more fuel to the fire.
yes,
Um, but currently, the format, just so everybody knows, is whoever is getting roasted um, is allowed to pick somewhere between, we'll say, 4 and 6 roastees, people to roast them. And the thought is that those chosen people will have 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever each, and they can do whatever, say whatever, and then at the end, then I will have a chance to rebuttal. But anybody who's not chosen will have, we'll say, anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes where they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and that'll be put out front at first. So
good.
I don't know if we're going to do it all completely live. I don't know if we're going to do some pre-recorded, and who knows? It's probably better to do it live over a big Zoom call. We'll see, but that is coming soon. I don't have an exact date. If I had to guess, it'll happen before. I don't want to say something and let you guys
Put
down,
a
but
date on it because then we know when you're going to do your podcast.
if I had to guess it, it'll happen. What month are we in? August. It'll happen before the end of September, if I had to guess. So we're talking like at most month and a
It's pretty good.
half. So that's something to look forward to. If you want to be roasted, let me know and I will get you on the eventual schedule. I think the idea is we'll do, we're going to do these, we're trying to do this podcast once a week. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. The idea of the roast is maybe we do one every month or one every 2 months. So it won't be as often,
Yeah.
but it's something that like, it's different than the podcast and everybody, dude, I can't wait for them because I remember the James one. I remember the Tom and Andrew one. And I just remember like, just, it's so funny. Like you said, like
I remember
everybody,
some of the jokes I cracked, like Adam, like, yeah, they
that,
were good.
yeah, yeah. So they are, the roasts are coming back. So everybody hopefully is going to look forward to that. I know there's a few more stories you wanted to get into.
Yeah.
You said something about softball and any of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. So, because we talked about, or you guys talked about on a couple of these podcasts. See, I feel like we talked about it. Was somebody mentioned that they were like, I'm like cracking up in bed, and like I think I'm a part of this conversation. Like, so I know like softball has come up a lot. I know it came up in Rick's. I know it came up in I don't like a bunch of people have talked about it. I remember us sucking terribly, and I remember being on the team and like just being terrible. And I remember the moment that it changed, and I'm like totally cool with this because I was not a part of when we became good. And it literally happened the game after I got cracked in the face with a softball. So we were playing. Tom was on first base, Harshberger. Chocolate was playing second. I don't know why I was playing shortstop because I think I played like right field like in middle school when I played baseball. Like I sure as shit like did not belong at the shortstop position. But we probably were so bad that we were like, well, just screw it. Let's just put Wolfie out shortstop. We suck at this point. And oh my god, it was so bad. Somebody hit a grounder to first. Tom should have tagged first and got the person out, but instead he went to get out the person that was running to second. So he threw it, he overthrew it. I actually, like a good softball player, backed Chocolate up because I knew, oh, Tom's overthrowing this. So I was ready to catch the ball. And Chocolate tried to jump off the base and catch it and then actually inadvertently just smacked the ball. So it was kind of going on like this path. And then he hit it and it just went, bloop. And so like it went totally over my glove and went straight square like between my eyes. And I remember standing there and just like it didn't hurt. Like I think the ball, I mean Tom didn't like lob it, like he threw it, but it hit me square enough in the face that it didn't hurt. And I just stood there going, all right, like I know I'm gonna start bleeding. Like where's the blood? And it just came gushing out of my nose. I don't think it broke my nose, but just blood poured out of my nose. It was horrendous. Somebody grabbed the towel and gave it to me. This is disgusting. I remember we kept the towel and hung it. So D-Shat, I think, mentioned that we broke all the doors in our apartment. We had like one door just like sitting in our living room because we didn't know how to put it back on. So we just sat it. And I remember hanging that towel over that door and it sat in there for like a month. It just had dried blood on it. But like, I just remember blood gushing out of my face. We didn't go to Phoenixville Hospital because we knew they were terrible. We went to, I think, Exton or something like that. And they ended up doing like, they didn't give me stitches, but I do have like a little thing on the top of my nose from when that happened. But after that game was when 24 Down like turned around and just went to the championship and won. And I was like, all right, apparently like I really suck at softball and was holding this team back. So I'm glad Tom popped me in the face with the ball.
So you were just the weak link apparently.
Yeah, I don't know why the hell I was at shortstop. Baldwin's question about being easygoing. I am not a competitive person like whatsoever. So yeah, I remember just getting socked in the face and like everybody in the like you heard it. It was like you could hear it hit my face, and I remember hearing people go just like a collective. Oh, that's not gonna be good. Like
That's crazy.
and then 24 Down won the championship in softball. Like we solidified.
You sacrificed your nose for the championship. Like that's,
yeah,
I mean,
I'll take that. Like, and then yeah, we 24 Down won everything: football, basketball, softball.
I mean, softball, we were god awful. We were absolutely awful.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not gonna like whatever.
Maybe Harshberger was really good, and he was like, I gotta take Wolfy out. Like this is it. Like he's bringing this team down. He's hilarious, but he's terrible at this game. But yeah, we 24 Down like was terrible at softball.
For sure. I mean, and it just changed like that, like instantly. And I'll never. I don't really think it was because you were off the team. Like,
No. I don't credit myself at all for. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, 20. We would have been good if I was still on the team, but like, I don't know what happened, but like something did happen. Like after that, and people turned it on.
Had your nose not have gotten busted and you stayed on, like it still would have clicked at that time. Like, so I'm not saying like. Yeah. Like you were the reason we sucked for sure. Like that's not the case.
Oh, I didn't care about softball at all. Right. So it's possible that could have been it, but it is like I love hearing the stories because again, like for me, and that's something I've got out of. Like I was never a part of like the sports side of 24 Down. Like in my life, I've never was a part of the sports time. Like I'm pretty good at like busting kids up at dodgeball at youth group now, like that I'm like over 30 years old and like have the experience. but like I was never, a part of that competitive group that, and like that's why people hated us because we backed up like what we talked like competitively. So maybe I did the talking and like, like Nate and Justin and some of those other guys did like the, the sports stuff. But yeah, I love hearing those stories because I'm like, yeah, I wasn't a part of like that, but like hearing those guys talk about it, like I love it. Like I love hearing those stories.
So speaking of sports, you wanted to talk about UFC fight night, and I wasn't sure where you wanted to go with this, but I'm very interested to hear.
I think it was just a memory that so well, I guess this is part of it. There was one place you could go to watch UFC fights
Yeah,
for free, right?
King of Prussia.
Yeah. I think it was the Valley Forge Convention Center. No, it was. I don't know. Maybe honestly, what like there was probably lots of places that played the fights for free, but we were dumb young guys in college. So Hooters was like the one place near King of Prussia that you could go watch these pay-per-view fights for free, and you had to order wings and stuff. And I mean, we were 24 down guys. We weren't creepy. We weren't like, "Hey, baby, like, how's it going? Like, how can you give me an order of chicken breast and hold the chicken?" Like, we never said anything like that, but like we just went and watched. But it was just like weird because it was like, I mean, we had like a solid group of guys that would go and watch these fights at Hooters. But it was, we all went to Valley Forge, so it's just funny. Like we went to watch the fights, and I don't know why that memory stuck out in my mind. Maybe it was from hearing Matthias's podcast because I think he was the one that like we would like they had like legit like pay per view boxing matches and like, I mean I still watch UFC, like I don't follow it but I still see it on TV and I'm like, oh, I could watch a UFC fight like right now, like it's still pretty like entertaining.
Right.
Um, but we did a lot, like it was pretty often we would go there on like a Saturday night, and watch a fight.
So the one thing, like, I will give Matthias 100% absolute credit. Like, you want to talk about somebody who got in on the UFC bandwagon before everybody else did. Like Matthias was like on that shit very, very
Mm-hmm.
early. Like, I get it, UFC had been around for many, many years, but like Matthias was on it before it got as commercialized as it was, and he kind
Right.
of like, I remember him always like talking about it, and like at first, like in my mind, I'd be like, "What is this guy talking about? Like, who cares? Like, I watch my fake wrestling, and I'm good with that, you know." But like, he was like the spearhead for like
Yeah.
getting us all like, because I was after my Valley Forge time, like I would still watch it a little bit, but I kind of like got out of it, and
Yeah.
I if it's on now, I might watch it, but I really could care less to watch it. But I was so invested in it because Matthias got us to that point. He got us
Right.
all invested, and that
And
was
that
some of
was, I think that was like a turning point for UFC when we like were watching it because that was, I remember Brock Lesnar, like that's when he started fighting the UFC, and I remember like going and watching that fight and like, but yeah, it was Matthias.
yeah, and it was like, I mean, that was definitely like, it was so cool. Like you said, we weren't going because we're like, hey, let's go to Hooters. This is gonna be so good. Like, it was literally like, well, here's where we can watch the fight. Like,
We're like,
yeah,
wait,
we might,
Hooters isn't a strip club?
right.
Oh, okay.
Like at the end of the day, it's like, sure, yeah, we might see some girls that are attractive, but really we're here to like hang out with our brothers and watch this fight, you know. And so I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so there's one other story that I have written down that you wanted to talk about, and you might have more, and we could get into more if you want to. But I completely forgot about this until you sent this. You want to talk about the involuntary volunteer workday?
Oh yeah, man. First of all, like that was just like one of the, I mean, I get what it was. Like it was a great way to get out and like serve. I feel like Valley Forge, I mean, people from Phoenixville didn't even know that Valley Forge was there, I feel like. And so it was like an effort to try to let people like, we're here and we're here to help. Like we're not just occupying this little like area of Phoenixville, um but yeah, what a weird thing. And it literally was like, yeah, yeah, volunteer workday, but you have to do it. like like it was so, yeah, go ahead. I think you're
So
gonna say.
so You didn't technically have to do it, and maybe this might be part of the reason I didn't like. It's not a thought in my brain. Like I don't remember. I mean, I remember it when you brought it up, but I found much like with chapel, and I think I've talked about this a little bit. I'll probably talk about it more in my episode. My last year and a half, so 3 semesters, I
Yeah.
might have gone to a combined 4 chapels, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll get more into that. But part of how I did that, it's not the full story, but part of how I did that was I had a really, really awesome boss. Like when I worked at the Phoenixville YMCA. My
Mm,
boss was so cool. Like to this day, her and I are still close. I talk to her all the time. I ask her, see how her family's doing and stuff like that. Um, she was like
that's
a
good, man.
she was like a sister slash mother slash friend, like all those like rolled into one.
Yep.
But anyway, like so she was really cool, and she would always, because remember we had the job fairs at Valley Forge.
Mm.
So the Phoenixville Y would always come to these job fairs. So the Phoenixville Y had a history of having Valley Forge students. So she knew enough about the school because she had had different students throughout the years, whatever. And her and I got close to the point where she was like, I know how much this shit is bullshit. And so there was a rule with chapel where if you worked during chapel, they would exempt you from chapel 3 days a week.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
well, it was the same thing with the community day or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
If you worked during that time, they would get you exempt from it. Well, my shift was from 6 in the morning till 8:30 in the morning, and then I had
Mm-hmm.
another shift like later on in the afternoon. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely wasn't working during the time, but she would tell them that I was working
Oh, yeah.
during
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
time. So I think I did the community day one time, and then every other year, like she was just like, "Oh yeah, he's working for me at this point." So that might be why I don't remember it. But crazy, like you're absolutely right. It's here's this thing. Oh yeah, we're gonna go do this volunteer stuff, but you have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, and it was like, yeah. So I do remember they would like split you, like you would just be put on a team, and like you had no idea who was going to be on your team. I think until that day. And my senior year, oh man, there was like, and there was always like pre-selected captains, and I think Murph was one of them.
Okay.
I think it was Murph. It might have been Alex. I don't remember exactly who, but there was a couple guys from 24 down that like were picked, and they stacked our team that it was basically the 24 down community service team. And so we ended up just being able to go out and just like, hang out the whole day. I think we were like cleaning up litter and stuff like that. Um, I want Vaughn Carson to do one of these because he did something that day. He was like sitting on the edge of the sign and like literally tried to say something. And it was like a billboard, but like the ones that are like 6 feet off the ground or something like that. And he fell off it, but his pants caught and ripped, and he just face planted. And I'll never forget it. I mean, we just died laughing, and it was like midway through the day. So like, oh my God, it was so funny.
That's
But I,
amazing.
I literally forgot until now that the reason that happened was because somebody from 24 down was one of the leaders for like our community service team, and like stacked it, like made it possible that we could just all do this miserable voluntary like serve. Not that we had a problem with like serving, but like again, my nature is like, well, you have to serve. Like, screw you. Like I'm not gonna do it, or I'm gonna do it in my own way. Like
Right.
thing, yeah.
No, yeah, I don't see like looking back on it now, I think there's part of me that regrets not doing it
Shouldn't. It's
because well just because like so you had experiences that like now I don't have, but at the same
right.
time like at that point in my life I'm sorry, like I would much rather do exactly what I did during that time, which was while you guys all left to go do your thing, I laid in my bed and took a nap. Like,
Yeah, we probably were jealous of you.
right, right. Well, is there any other stories you want to bring up?
I don't think so, man. I know I had other ones, but like I want to hear other people share this stuff. And like you've talked about like doing, it's part one. Like
Right.
So, I had written some stuff down. I mean, there were stories that came out here that like I even forgot about, but um, no, nothing more that I have to add. I think I've filled up probably plenty of time.
Well, dude, this is honestly, it's been a blast. Like,
Yeah.
I, it's crazy because like I don't want to make anybody feel more or less special than anybody else, but I get just as excited for every episode, but like for
Hmm.
different reasons. So
Hmm.
like I was so excited to do your episode tonight, for different reasons, but like man, I I think all in all, great episode. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of things out of this. I'm really pumped that Andrew and Francis are starting this new spin-off
Right.
show.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that that takes off, and I'm going to encourage people to get involved in that. So again, right now, your job is to re-listen to the D-Shat episode. Maybe don't listen to the whole thing. Maybe just highlight a few things. Listen to the whole thing if you want. But like, or if you remember certain things that you wanted to talk about, like you said, Wolf, like
Hmm.
and Rick said, like there's times where you guys are listening to this podcast and you feel like you're sitting there and you're wanting to get involved in the conversation. Well,
Right.
this podcast that Andrew and Francis are going to do, like that is the opportunity to do that. So I'm really encouraging you guys, write down your notes from D-Shat's episode if you remember them. If not, give yourself a quick refresher. Listen to it the whole way through, listen to some highlights, and really plug into that, because as awesome as this podcast is, I think this spin-off show has potential to be more meaningful because you're going to get that interaction back and forth as a community. So really
Yeah.
encourage everybody to like really dive into that. If and if you don't do it for the D-Shat episode because you can only do it here and there, pick an episode and like really get involved in episodes you want to get involved in, because the more we get involved with this, the better it's going to be. So I'm going to do a few quick plugs, and then Wolfie, I'm going to let you take us out after. So
Cool.
um, Twitter, if you guys got Twitter and you want to follow us on Twitter, basically the only thing I really tweet is when we have a new episode. Um, but our Twitter handle is at 24 Down Podcast. If you want to email us for any reason, you could email us 24downpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to own one of these nice, beautiful shirts, the 24 Down Podcast shirts, we also have just the 24 Down logo without the podcast and the microphone. You can get those at storefrontier.com/24down. Like we talked about earlier, the Facebook pages. There's basically two main ones. There's the 24 Down group. It's a private group, so if you can't find it, find somebody within 24 Down. There's a chance they're a member. We want you in this group, so reach out to people within the group until you find somebody that's in there, so we can get you in there as well. There's also the public page is the 24 Down podcast page. Same thing. I'm going to send out updates when there's a new episode, things like that. But really get into the 24 Down group specifically itself if you can, because that's where we're going to talk about more personal things. Like we brought up Nate's dad. That whole topic
Hmm.
came up within the 24 Down group page. If there's prayer requests, there's a prayer request going on right now for Francis. Like that's brought up in the 24 Down page. So like really that page is meant to promote things that and keep you guys up to date with the podcast, but it's also meant to keep the brotherhood going strong in a more intimate setting. So check those out. Wolfie, man, it's been amazing. I look forward to Wolfie Part 2 whenever that is, and I will let you close us out and say whatever it is you want to say.
Yeah. Wow, man. So I know you are very humble and you don't take credit for this, but like, thank you so much for like you can take credit for this. I mean, and I think a lot of what I've seen, and again, what I regret um, not taking advantage of more is keeping alive what we had with 24 Down at Valley Forge. Like, hasn't ended like since we left or graduated or moved on with the other parts of our lives. Like, you have kept that alive, and especially doing this podcast. I don't know where I kind of wanted to ask you about that, but we can talk about that then. Like, just like where this came from. Like, was it something like obviously like with COVID and everything on going on, but um, I've shared it with people. Like, I mean, I've told it to clients at work. I'm like, yeah, I have this friend from school, and like we were a part of this really close group, and they're like, that's so cool. Like, that is so smart, and I'm like, it is, and like, um, it has been awesome listening to these podcasts, not only because of the memories drawn up, the stuff that I remembered, the stuff that I knew, but the things that I didn't know, and like the people that I didn't know. I was, I don't like, I was part of 24 Down, but like I was an outsider, like a little bit. I know we talked like, somebody mentioned like the apartment on 24 Down was always like, I think until we lived there with like D Shat, myself, Chocolate Tom, like it was always people that had zero interest in being a part of like 24 Down, like the community there. I It's like really, I always like really find interesting like the psychology of stuff, and I think talking like, so Van and I work together, like, and so like our coworkers know about this podcast, and they're like, well, what was it like? Like, what were you guys like in college, like that? And describing like, 24 Down was just community, and I don't know if it was like there was no lounge area. So there was no area that you could go to outside your room to hang out. So what did we do? We just, people hung out in their rooms. Like we had like a kind of like living room area in this apartment. That door was open like all the time. Like people just filtered in. And so nobody knew who lived with who, because we were always hanging out. And again, like that's where I didn't get to 24 Down until my senior year. But being being there all the time and just hanging out, like the Guitar Hero concerts, like the stupid shenanigans that went on in those community bathrooms. Like I didn't live on 24 Down when that stuff went on, but I knew about it because I was there and doing it as well. And I just loved the community have, and I did not realize how much I missed it. Not that like I am 100% happy with my life now, and I love my wife, my child, like, college, again, kind of like that compartment thing, like college happened. And for a lot of people, like college stays back there. But like, I didn't realize like how much I missed the relationships that we built in school. I'm so Dshat and Tom both lived in Harrisburg after I graduated. So I stayed with them. Like White Chocolate and I obviously are super close. But for, the other guys that I wasn't close with, like love being able to hear the success, and even the hard times. Like it's great hearing what happened to everybody after Valley Forge, and being to connect with them. And like, I mean, like even like Pete and I like weren't close, and like I reached out to him, and like my brother's helping me and those close to me through some stuff. And like, we just have that bond. And kind of to take it back and tie it together, it's because, you know, to be Christian is to love unconditionally. And like, dude, what was 24 Down? Like, we loved unconditionally. As long as you wanted to be there, like, we accepted you. And like, I remember like, and the freshmen coming in, and we would, like, it wasn't hazing. We were like, listen, we'll do this with you, bro. Like, I'll put icy hot on my testicles for you, man. Like, be a part of this family, like be a part of this group. And like, the guys, the girls, like that's what made us different. And like, I don't think people hated us, but like they definitely like, I don't know, like they hate us because they hate us. Like they definitely were like, oh, man, 24 Down. Like, again, Valley Forge, I think a lot of people didn't fit the cookie cutter mold, but kind of forced themselves to. And they saw what we had, and that we had no interest in doing that. And yeah, so kind of like plug my outro song that I wanted to pick it's a song called Our Trip by the Thermals. It's a band I just stumbled across, but like the whole song is basically just like, it's our trip, man. We're not listening. Like, we're doing our own thing. And I think that's what made 24 Down special. We did our own thing. We knew who we were. We didn't sugarcoat it. Like, we ragged on each other because we knew we could, and we held each other accountable. And if you're questioning, like, if well, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, I wouldn't have to tell you to listen to the podcast. But if you're like questioning, like, oh, I don't know if like I should do it, like, you should do it because people want to hear your stories. Because we all have our own stories. So what? This is number 11, and there's obviously stories that come up like on every podcast or different variations, but completely different views, completely new stuff, and yeah, anybody. So yeah, I'm gonna take up your kind of what you said, Hat. I'm gonna try to message some people after this and get on here, share your stories. I want to hear it. There are other people that want to hear it, but I want to hear it. So do it for me. But again, 24 down. Love who we are. Love all you guys, all you girls. Um, can't wait till we do a roast, B the reunion. I guess I should A the reunion, B the roast. But yeah, I again I wouldn't probably a year ago if we had a reunion, I probably wouldn't have really thought about like, all right, yeah, like I'll make time for that. Definitely gonna make time for it now.
Awesome. Wolf,
Cool.
man, it's been awesome. It's been a pleasure having you on, bro. I love you, and
Yeah, man.
it's honestly like can't say enough. Like I'm so like happy to hear like how well you're doing and everything like that. Congrats again on being a dad.
Yeah.
I'm
Join the
sure you're.
club. Come on,
We'll see.
man.
We'll see. All right,
It's
brother.
easy to do.
Well, with that, we will leave you guys with Wolfie's outro song, and we will see you guys here next week, hopefully.
Cool. Love you guys.
Awesome, dude.
Good
Just,
stuff, man.
oh, I didn't mean to stop the
Oh.
video. I meant to stop the recording. There we go.